I started the stream. Hi, I'm Eric Stephen Allen. I'm here with Joe Drilling.
Hey, what's up? I'm Joe Drilling, and I'm here with Mike Ailes.
Hi, I'm Mike Ailes, and I'm here with, what was the last guy's name?
Kurt Adam.
Kurt Adam.
Hi, I'm Kurt Adam, and I'm here with all the other people that are here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this is
there
on
might be other people here, but those are the only people that are going to say anything.
This is On the Stick, the podcast.
Whoa.
What?
For the first
We don't
time
do that
in
anymore.
like 10 months or whatever.
Way more than that.
No, we did a PS2 draft.
Yeah, Game of the Year I would technically consider an On the Stick podcast, even though there is no podcast feed per se these days.
Right, okay, I'm down with that.
Anyway, we're going to redo the NES draft.
Yeah.
Because Joe was supposed to make a video out of it.
It.
And yeah, it was a little rough, so we decided just to redo it.
Yeah, it would have been, I would have had to edit and chop and do a bunch of stuff to the point it would have been distracting.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows we are known for our smooth podcasts.
And then 8 years from now, this will be so fucked up that we'll have to go back and do it all again.
We'll do it again.
In Hollow Vision.
I mean, will there even be YouTube in our coming hellscape?
Yes, that's the only thing that will survive.
That's the only thing.
Most assuredly.
But it'll only be YouTube Red.
I mean, YouTube is like a harbinger of the fucking future hellscape, right?
YouTube, turn it off.
YouTube and dystopia will be synonymous. Anyway.
Dystopia.
They already are.
Yeah, something. Anyway. The algorithm is all...
It's all consuming.
Anyway, everybody under the age of 20 will be a Nazi or a... Anyway, fuck.
More
so.
Anyways,
everything on the
internet.
Why never mind. Podcast is canceled.
No, Eric. People need this.
Okay.
They need this
I
positive
need this.
look into.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think you need
positive
this,
look into
but you need to
past.
stop talking about that shit you were just talking about and just talk about video games for a while. So
yeah, there you go.
Let's rewind it all the way back to 1983.
Can we rewind it like maybe a little bit further than that when the good games started coming out for the NES, and so we're not just stuck with like Clue Land and baseball, like.
Oh man, how dare you fucking disparage the fine name of Clue Land?
You better draft Clue Land now.
You're shitting on Eric's choices. I don't think. Also, spoilers, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey Eric, why don't you tell him how this works?
So I feel like the original NES draft that we did, we picked like conceptually this was supposed to be like a desert island list where we were all being separated, and then we would just each pick a video game in a snake draft format, and then what we got was the games that we got to take with us to the desert island. But it is sort of it has sort of transformed over the years to just being like a rundown of like all of our top like a easy way to make a collective like top 25 list for the various consoles. And I think
need to know if we're sticking to the old rules or not, because that'll change my answer.
Does it? It doesn't really change mine very much, but
no, it doesn't change mine either.
Either way. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick an order, which we probably should have done before the show, but we've always been...
Did.
Oh, you did?
No, Mike did. Yeah, Mike's
already ready to go.
All right, good.
Yeah. He just hasn't told us.
And then we'll see how badly Joe fucks up the first pick and hands me the two games that I want right off the top again.
Maybe I didn't have the first.
I got the first pick and everybody bitched.
No,
let's start with that.
But you picked before me because I had the last pick last time.
That's true. You did get. Yeah, you got a twofer.
Yeah.
As the person with the list, the dramatic irony is delightful.
Hey, Mike, what's the order?
Well, I read so snake style draft. Just so you know,
Yep.
we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
How many rounds are we doing before we call it quits?
We'll do top 20, and then we'll do a lightning round for the last 5 to round it out. I believe that's how we have done it in the past.
That is how we have done it historically. Yes.
Each chooser has 4 minutes to expound upon the virtues of their chosen game, and 30 seconds to choose what it's actually going to be. And after that, the buzzer is a harsh mistress.
Yes. If you miss, it goes to the next person, but then it comes back to you after their pick. You don't miss your.
Yes, although that has never happened in the history of on the stick drafts.
Someone took a pass in the Sega, I think, in the Sega Genesis draft. I think Austin Walker was like, I can't decide. The next person can go.
Well, that ain't
Waypoint
right.
editor-in-chief Austin Walker, who was on one of our draft shows one time before he was Waypoint editor-in-chief, before he was Giant Bombs Austin Walker, when he was Stream Friends Austin Walker. That was
true. That's right.
Yeah, well, that was the Genesis, and we're talking about the Nintendo Entertainment System tonight.
That's right.
Are we ready to get things moving?
Yeah, well, we could probably. I need to know like what the order is and stuff.
All right, your first drafter for tonight is Mr. Eric Steven Allen.
Yay!
Nice.
All right.
Now I get to decide if I want to stab Joe in the back or if I just was like.
Are we just gonna let Eric go and then we're gonna find out as we go what the order is?
I think we should find out as we go.
I'm fine with that.
Eric's 30 seconds are ticking. So.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I was gonna start the timer. It has started.
Well, this is your only chance to stab him because Joe's gonna get 2 choices before your next pick, Eric.
Oh, all right. Well,
everyone is gonna get 2. Yeah, it's true. Everyone's gonna get 2 choices for your next
fuck
pick.
it, man. There is one. I mean, there's a lot of great NES games. And there's a couple that you might describe as perfect, but I think this is the most perfectest NES game. I don't think you can lodge any criticisms against it. And that game is Contra. And so last time this was our 4th on the list. This time it'll be number 1. And I don't think
fine pick.
Yeah,
you are well and truly a son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, look, man,
I was gonna pick it if you didn't pick it because just
to be a dick to me. Is that
right? Yeah. Pretty much.
It's just funny how
it's a great game, and we might as well pick it before Joe just to vex him.
I love Contra. I will admit that I probably don't love Contra as much as Joe does, but I do think that it is one of the rare perfect video games that
you don't judge games in how many Contras you can play.
Right? No, it's
the time that it takes.
Like I could have played Contra 15 times.
I forgot to play the video. There we go. All right, we got some video now. I forgot it was on the.
Good job.
He was on the stick.
Contra, it's a game with like no fat in it whatsoever. It's got a lot of variety in the level design. The level designs are all super tight. It's got a lot of super awesome power-ups. It's got a ton of great bosses. It's got co-op. It is a very difficult game, but it also has an easy mode where you can enter the classic Konami code and get 30 lives and kind of make it possible to just brute force your way through it. It is like a perfect 8-bit video game. It is everything that you could ever possibly want from an NES game. And I love it. I love playing it. Like I said, I have not mastered it in the same way that Joe has, during an Extra Life stream a few years ago, he looped it like 10 times in 90 minutes without having to start over, which was very impressive. I cannot do that. I can beat it without
I think it was like 5 or
continue,
6, but yeah.
Anyway, it's a really incredible game.
Yeah, Contra's probably my favorite video game of all time.
Yep.
Like just full stop. So I think it's a worthy number 1 overall pick for this endeavor.
Yeah.
Even if you're a son of a bitch for taking it from me.
Can you say anything bad about Contra?
No one can say anything. Anybody who would try to say anything bad about Contra.
Sometimes you get stuck with laser, and that sucks.
Sometimes you get stuck with a fire weapon.
Fire's better than laser. No, fire's way better than laser. No, fire's better than laser because it covers a wider area, so it's easier.
No, laser is better because it does way more DPS than.
You don't need to do a lot of damage if you can stand out of the line of fire.
Joe, DPS wasn't invented until 2006. Okay.
Previous to that, it was.
Tell that to people who speedrun Contra. All right.
Do you think that killing your friends in the waterfall level is a bug or a feature?
It's a feature.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's a feature. It's meant to make it. It's meant to force you
to work together a little bit.
To work together or face the consequences of not working together. So. It's a feature.
Yeah. Also, like these, as you're seeing in this little video, although I don't know if Joe's planning to edit some different footage together at some point, so maybe I shouldn't reference what's happening in the video. But I really like the behind the shoulder videos are very good, or the behind the shoulder levels are also really good. They're just a really awesome change of pace.
Yeah.
It's just so much good shit in Contra.
Yeah.
Played it all the time when I was a kid. And it holds up to this day. I think it's still a great game, and it's just as good in 2018 as it was in 1988.
In college, my roommate and I would play. Many nights we would play, and when we got to the end, we would stand up and salute while the credits were rolling.
Really good.
You've defeated the vile Red Falcon. Consider yourself a hero.
Yeah. All right, so that's Contra, unless anybody else has anything to add.
I mean, I could talk all day about Contra, but it's the platonic ideal of an action platformer. You run and gun at such a smooth rate. You don't have to stop to shoot.
Man, the jump! The jump is so good.
Yeah.
It feels so good to jump, and you can squiggle your guy back and forth, and you have really good control over everything. It's such a great.
Okay, time.
Yep.
All right. Well, our next drafter person is going to be none other than me. That's Mike, if you're listening. Hooray! So I didn't think I was going to get my first choice, honestly. That almost never happens in these drafts. But thankfully, Eric could not resist the siren song of making Joe really sad.
That's what I live for.
Much love for Contra, but it's not one of those games I played as a kid, so it's not like top on my list. My friend had Super C. That was good too.
Super C is also good.
Anyway, that's not what I'm picking. I'm picking the one game for the NES that I come back to the most out of any, the one that I would want to play the most if I could only have one. And it's Mega Man 2.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Were you ready for that? Eric, is that what you were expecting?
Yep.
I thought you liked Mega Man 3 more, Mike.
Well, I'm down to it. There are things that I think are better about Mega Man 3, but Mega Man 2 is the iconic one. It's the one that is completely carved into my brain. I could probably map that game out for you now and be more or less correct. I've played it dozens, if not over 100 times to completion. Picked every level first and learned how to do the quick lasers and the Heatman blocks, and it's the game that has the robot masters that you care about. It's the game that has the weapons that you care about. It's the game that has the music that you care about. So Eric, you just tabbed over. Okay.
Yeah, I did that accidentally.
There are absolutely things that I love about Mega Man 3, and that's an amazing game, but Mega Man 2 is the one everyone remembers and the one everyone wants, and so I'm taking it. And screw all. Look at this intro.
It's great.
Yeah, the intro is great.
The boss.
Mega Man 2 is definitely the better one. It's the best one.
Yep.
Who the hell goes to Airman first, though? What the hell is this?
Everybody who knows how to play Mega Man 2 goes to Airman first.
No, everybody knows how to play Mega Man 2 goes to... No, Metal Man is the optimal choice because the Metal Blade is totally broken.
Yeah, but if you do Airman first, then you get the item 2, and then you can get the extra life and the E-Tank in Metal Man stage.
Yes, sir.
You don't need them. You don't need them.
Nice to have. Yeah.
Okay, is that thing a mouth or a nose? That's the real question.
It's his nose. The mouth is the straight line at the bottom. Come on.
Correct.
I always thought it was a nose, and I didn't think that the line was a mouth. I thought it was just that dude only has a nose.
I always thought it was a mouth, and I can't unsee it.
Like an elephant.
Elephants have, never mind.
You don't see the mouth usually on an elephant. Got that big down.
Yeah,
anyway, the point is Mega Man 2. I remember renting a Nintendo before I owned one, and playing this game for just hours and hours and hours, and just throwing myself at all the levels and dying over and over again until I learned. Bubble Man used to always be my starter because he was the first one that I managed to crack.
Yeah.
There's no reason to start with Bubble Man, but
when I was a kid, I used to start with Flash Man because he's a chump and the level's pretty easy, and then you can get Quick Man.
And it's got the best music.
Right, and Quick Man's level and Quick Man is pretty easy.
All right, Joe. Sure.
But
best music in the game is probably Airman, but there's so many choices.
Yeah,
it's Flash Man.
Really
Woodman is maybe my favorite.
Yeah, that nice...
Woodman, that bass riff in
sort of
Woodman is pretty good.
Yeah, that world music beat.
Yeah,
you fell
right.
off the cloud, you got killed by the lightning guy.
Yeah.
Let's just dunk on Eric's inability to be good at Mega Man 2 for the rest of this. Yeah, I don't know. I Mega Man 3, I think the Doc Robot stages kind of feel like padding to me, which is what really keeps stages. 3 from being better than 2.
Mega Man 2 has the dragon, which was one of the most mind-blowing things I'd ever seen in a video game.
The dragon is still kind of mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah. It doesn't... Yeah. It's less mind-blowing when you really pay attention to how little animation it has. It's quite a bit less mind-blowing.
It has tiny wings like a hummingbird, though. That's one of my favorite things about it.
The 2018 Game Critic me sees that there are a couple of glaring flaws with Mega Man 2 that I would not put up with if I hadn't learned how to play it so long ago.
What do you mean?
At this point, it doesn't matter.
I feel like the most glaring flaw is that the Metal Blade is ridiculously overpowered.
That's not a flaw.
I mean, I appreciate it, but like, I think you could make an argument that like this one thing kind of unbalances the whole damn game.
No, I'm thinking stuff like the quick man lasers and the heat man blocks that are just a completely ridiculous ask for a new player.
So the heat man, I've never done the heat man blocks, but I can do the quick man lasers. But there's a way around both of those things, right?
There
You can
is.
item 2 around the around the heat man blocks, and you can time stopper past the quick man lasers.
Yeah,
Yeah, but a new player's not going to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Well,
that I think
that's
that
part of
in
the thing about Mega Man games, though, is you like trial and error your way through
Right.
them, figuring out which boss to go
Right.
to and which state
I mean,
and
the
what tools you need.
levels are very short, so if it didn't have at least a little bit of a challenge, then you would be able to breeze through it super quickly. I actually think that they do a pretty good job of teaching you about the lasers and the way that the blocks work in the level earlier before they make you really do the hard shit, so you can at least practice before you have to do the hard stuff. But and also, I mean, the blocks are in Mega Man 1, so
Yeah, it's just that you can't see.
But
the
they're
entire
not in
blockchain
the
before.
same
Time.
way as the heat man
Anyway,
blocks.
it's amazing.
it's
Best
great.
game ever.
It's a great
The
game.
best game on the Nintendo.
Yep.
Definitely one of the best soundtracks of all time. Also,
Yes,
Yep.
Yep, love
absolutely.
that minor 7.
yeah. All right, who's up
Okay.
next?
Who's
All right, I'm
third?
supposed to tell you that. All right, our third drafter will be none other than the illustrious Kurtathan Adam.
Woohoo!
Hopefully.
Yay! I'm gonna go with I'm pretty sure that I picked first, and I picked this game previously. Super Mario Brothers 3,
Yay!
the greatest platformer of all time.
I could buy that argument.
Maybe second, maybe third.
It's very good.
I know what you might put ahead of it as another Mario, but what would be the
Oh, I don't know. Let's not get into that distraction.
So I would say that this was I'm a big fan of platformers, and this was the first one I played that just sort of blew my mind as to how much stuff was in it.
There's a lot of
You
stuff.
know, and all the little secrets and all the little one-shot things like Karibo's shoe.
Mm-hmm.
For the time that it came
and-
out, it was on another plane of existence. Like
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, where did this game come from?
Yeah.
It's so far advanced compared to everything else that was around at the time.
Yeah.
It's stuffed with stuff, things, and suddenly you find out about a whistle, and you can skip levels, and you can, go back and forth and do all this stuff, and there's mini games
And the pirate ship appears with all the coins. Like, why'd that happen?
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, because it's fucking
So-
cool, man.
It's cool. And when you get really fucking good at it, it just feels great. The controls are amazingly tight. Everything just works. Looks great. The
variety in the level designs and
Yeah.
backgrounds is really impressive. Like,
exactly.
Um,
They do
They got
so
some
much with
bite-sized
such
levels.
a limited palette. Yeah, exactly.
It is just an endless series of snacks.
Yep.
I love the overworld. I've talked about this before, but I love the overworld stuff you can get up to. How it turns into a board game if you've got 2 players, and like you can leapfrog each other or get sent back
Yep.
if you lose all your lives, and like the opening and closing bridges on World 3 using anchors to kind
Yeah,
of
and it's
lock
like,
the airship in
you know,
place.
that there's almost no reason for that to need to be there, and yet it's there and it's cool.
But it's just so fun.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
also discovering all the various suits and power-ups and stuff was super
mhm.
cool.
You got your Tanuki suits,
Frog
which
suit,
is it's so
Hammer
great.
Brothers
Frog
suits.
suit. Hammer
It felt like
Brothers.
such an event anytime you got a Hammer Brothers suit.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, you just go to town, start wrecking shit.
absolutely.
It's great.
You lose it 4 seconds later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
by
you get
the
real.
time you get
You're
to
like,
that
I can go to town,
Yeah.
and you get really sloppy and you die.
Yeah. Plus, by the time you get to that point in the game, it's like super difficult because there are, especially in World, which is the one with the pipes with all the munchers in it?
7.
7. Yeah, that is a hellacious beast of a final.
I love that level.
I think that those levels are harder than the ones in the Bowser's castle / train / boat area.
I'd say that's probably.
I
true.
don't know. I tend to use the P-Wings that I've stocked up to skip a lot of those Bowser levels, whereas I like challenging myself to the endless buncher level.
Yeah. Angry Sun?
Angry Sun.
Angry
Scary
Sun,
son.
so great. I need
Also,
an Angry Sun T-shirt.
I warped to the
That-
giant level here, which was another thing that was the coolest
Yeah.
thing I'd ever seen in my entire life when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
The Koopa Troopas, they are so big.
They're very big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I got nothing else to say.
Yeah.
It's just fucking great.
It is fucking great.
Okay,
it's the best Mario game, and I refuse to
agreed.
to amend that, Mike. This is better than Mario World, and I don't care what you have to say about it.
Also, I would buy
they're both
Mario
great.
Galaxy 2.
Those
are my three.
Good.
Those are my three Mario games that you should play.
I mean, those are everyone's 3 Mario games, right?
I think Mario 64.
Are they? I think there's a debate to be had between Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2.
Oh yeah, sure. I
think for more people,
two sides of the same.
It would be
album.
Mario 64 replacing one of those two as the 3D representation, but
that's a good game, but that's the wrong answer.
Yeah, I think three and World are
the
I would say that both
Galaxy
and 3D World are both better than.
Yeah, as much as everybody praises the camera in 64, it's only good for its time, and it's not even that great for that.
It's still manageable for now. Like the last time I played it, which wasn't that long ago, I wasn't like, I can't believe this camera. Like I was like, this is mildly annoying sometimes, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's more that people are like, the camera is amazing. I'm like, it's not amazing.
Felt really good to catch that rod. And not without making it bounce a bunch of times. Yeah.
Just as good as backflipping into the orb in Rondo of Blood.
So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Okay, I'm done. So that means Joe gets 2 picks.
Because that means I get 2 picks. Well, it's funny, Mike, that you should mention backflipping into the orb in Rondo of Blood, because since you guys just picked my 3 favorite NES games,
I mean. The odds of those 3 games going really soon.
Yeah, those are
pretty high.
Pretty high.
But I will say the top of my B tier, I guess, as we'll say, or one of my favorite NES games is Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse.
Last time I had Contra and Castlevania 3.
See, that was going to be my second pick.
You're welcome to that trash.
Yeah, Mike is super wrong about, if you haven't been following us for very long.
For the next 4 minutes.
Yeah, Mike is really wrong about Castlevania 3. Man, Castlevania 3 is sort of the platonic ideal of a non-exploratory Castlevania.
Metroidvania Castlevania. Yeah.
It's got multiple characters, multiple paths, multiple everything. It has a password system, so you're not stuck having to do it in one. Yeah.
And again, that was something that blew my mind at the time. Was like, wait, there are 3 different characters we can play. Whoa.
Yeah, and 4 technically, because you can play as Trevor, and then you have 3 separate companion characters. Is someone typing the Great American Novel, or what's going on? So it's Trevor plays great, and all 3 of the companion characters have pros and cons. I would say that Grant is better in the Japanese version, but we didn't say at the beginning, we're talking strictly the US library, by the way, no imports at this time. So I guess I'm stuck with the American version of Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, but the Japanese version is better.
Definitely inferior.
It would definitely
in terms of gameplay.
Yeah, it and music.
And balancing, but not in music. It has better music.
So
it's not as bloody.
It's I disagree with that point, but both soundtracks are good.
I would give this game maybe second best soundtrack on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Super good soundtrack. Yeah.
I would say this is my number 1 and Mega Man 2 is number 2, but I ain't gonna argue with you.
That's also solid.
Yeah. But I think that each even though the game is rebalanced for the difficulty really, really badly, in a lot of ways, it changes item drops, it changes,
you take way too much damage,
the number of hearts, it changes the way that you take damage. It also most annoyingly changes where you spawn to fight Dracula after you lose a life, which is like
makes
that's the worst change.
Stage before you fight Dracula. It sucks.
And in the Japanese version, it just starts you on the steps. So,
but it sucks.
But all that being said, it's still a great game. It's still the best of the 1 is still super hard. 1 is harder than 3, even with the American difficulty adjustments.
I disagree with that.
For 3,
1 has some real bullshit near the end, and the death fight is almost impossible if you don't have holy water. But other than that, that game's quite a bit easier than 3. It also depends. It depends. It varies greatly depending on which characters you have,
which character you have, and which path you take.
Because there's some paths that are almost unbeatable without Alucard in the bat form, especially on the US version.
Right. And Grant's wall climb makes getting past some stuff kind of trivial as well, but that's balanced out in this version with the fact that he can't throw his daggers.
Yeah. Sypha is like a total glass cannon, great against bosses.
Yeah,
but
if you can get the thunder magic with her, I don't know, it's great. Watch the Netflix series, play the video game.
I would say that of the top 4 games that we've picked, this one is the easiest to say it doesn't quite hold up as well in modern terms, just because of the stiffness of the jumping and the way that it is designed.
The cruelty of the difficulty curve.
Yeah, but I think that like this game is a perfect. I think it is very well balanced and very well designed around that specific gameplay that it has, but it's a pretty rough first step to have to take to get used to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially post Castlevania 4, Symphony of the Night, Rondo of Blood World.
This is better than Castlevania 4. But all right. Well, the last thing I'm going to say, since my time is up, but the one thing that the American version has over the Japanese version is the box art is better in the American version, and not the soundtrack.
The
box
is
art
better
is way better
sounding.
Next.
And so the next game I'm going to pick, I'm not going to apologize to Mike for taking what he at one point claimed to be his favorite NES game, and that is Bionic Commando.
Oh yeah.
Boo.
I would have liked to have that one.
Where is that?
Well, you decided you'd like to have Mega Man 2 more.
I'm really sad that I had to play 5 minutes of Bionic Commando to capture footage for this. But
why are you sad? Because you couldn't play more than 5 minutes?
Because I got to a barrel that I couldn't get over because I can't jump or mantle. It's bullshit.
So
that's because you haven't embraced the joy of the swing.
First world problem.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Get the heck out of here, you nerd.
I didn't realize that you were such a fan of this game, Joe.
Oh my god, I love this game. Love it. And it's what I think part of what I love about it is that we talked in the so I just edited the Super NES draft into a video, and I'll put a card or whatever, a link in the end screen or whatever to go watch the Super NES draft that we did in 2011. But we talked a lot in that draft about ideas that were never properly ripped off that should have been. They're like fertile ground to rip this off and make a new game that's like this. And we talked about a million games like that for the Super NES. There aren't that many for the NES, but this is one of them. This is a platformer in which you cannot jump, but it works. And it works so well. But not for you, apparently. Watching this gameplay footage, you can't figure out how to get past this barrel.
In pure movement, it's one of the best platformers I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
This is one of those games that
how its rules go. Like it's
once you figure it out, right? Once you master how the bionic arm works, it feels so good to move around the maps and the levels with it. Like there's a level where there's lights that you can stand on, but you slide off of them if you don't hook onto something else. And there's a stage where you have to swing from light to light. And you have to land on the lights, and before sliding off and falling to your death, you have to hook onto the next thing and swing to the next thing. And once you master those sections, you just are like, it feels so good, and it feels like you've earned it so much. And it's also got the Mega Man-esque thing of like a steady path of upgrades, of getting the different guns and the different
no, it's not a very steady path of upgrades. There's one upgrade that matters in the game, and you get it really early, and you get the rocket launcher and you use it until the end of the game.
Right. Well, that's a kind of a steady path. I don't know. The three-way doesn't shoot very far, but I use it a pretty fair amount.
There's that one level where you need it to bust down a wall, and it's kind of useful because there are flying guys in that level, but every other level I just take the rocket launcher. I mean, you get some good defensive items and right.
I was going to say, and then you get the potion, you get the flares, or you can try to do the cave level without the flares in the dark, because you can see just enough of stuff to kind of navigate your way around things.
I don't usually do that just because it's not that hard of a level, and it makes it it's not worth having an extra potion or something.
Right.
Trade off of not being able to see the platforms very well.
The only thing I don't like about this game, honestly, is the different communicators thing.
Yeah, that's really pointless.
And early on, you have to farm bullets to get more health. Like
don't
usually in the
have
first
to.
stage, you don't have to, but I usually get at least 1 or 2 health
Yeah.
upgrades before moving out of the first stage.
Yeah,
But one is really fast.
I think the map is kind of stupid and not necessarily like, especially if you compare it to a game like Mario 3, which really effectively uses the map and throws a bunch of different weird things onto it and
This is
makes it
earlier,
an
though.
important part of exploring that world. Like in this game, the map just feels completely unnecessary.
It's mostly just to penalize you by making you do overhead levels, which aren't very fun, but they do give you continues.
You continues, yeah. And also that makes it more like Commando, because those are Commando style levels.
But not the highlight, let's just say.
No, not the highlight.
I want to say that I really like the tone of the game and like the people that you talk to and the weird things that they say.
You like killing Nazis?
And
I love killing Nazis.
Yeah, one of my favorite video game quotes of all time has got to be, "Mr. Joe, I'm here to rescue you."
Eric's opening fire in a neutral zone. Like, I don't even know what he's doing in this game.
That's actually one of the things that I really like about this game is the neutral zone stuff, because it's something that was fully realized really, really well in Spelunky later on. I feel like this is probably the game that inspired the way that the shopkeepers will turn on you and then stay aggroed for the rest of the...
Isn't there another game? I feel like there's an old RPG or something where you can aggro shopkeepers against you.
Probably, there's probably some... I think there's one where you can steal stuff and they will aggro.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
All right, well, Bionic Commando, hell of a game. I'm sad that you got it and not me.
Yeah, well, I'm sad that you got Mega Man 2 and not me, so... Level design is fantastic.
Okay.
You're
Eric,
nuts.
Just stop talking.
There's something there. Somebody could make a good Bionic Commando game someday.
And this is another one like Contra that's better than the arcade version. Like considerably better than the arcade version.
All right, moving on.
Kurt.
All right. So I was starting to try to strategize and then decided I wouldn't. And I would just pick the game that I think you get. At least some people were surprised I picked last time, which is Metroid.
It's a cool game.
I love me some Metroid, and I believe when we did the original NES draft, I hadn't played Super Metroid yet, and it was like, no, Super Metroid's so awesome. Which one, Super Metroid is so awesome because now I've played it, but it does not negate my love of the original Metroid. Which I still think is has that same sense of mystery and exploration and just digging around in this weird alien world, finding the power-ups and all that stuff. I mean, Super Metroid is better by far, but this game is still good, and there isn't a Super Metroid on the NES, so I'm going to pick Metroid.
That's a good pick. I think there's a lot of stuff about the original Metroid that doesn't hold up too well, I think, more so than any of the other games that we've picked so far. But I think that Metroid is... I think that it is capital I important in the way that like Super Mario Brothers and Zelda are important, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that it is also sort of unique on the Nintendo in the terms of its tone and atmosphere. There is there's a lot of like spunky platformers and fantasy style RPGs and games about ninjas and games about burly dudes punching dudes, but there aren't many other games that are actually kind of scary in the way that Metroid especially was back then.
Creepy, and you're on this lonely, weird planet, and you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on and how to survive and do all that stuff. And...
it feels very alien, especially, which is really important because like video games were super weird and abstract back then, but like I said, a lot of times they were just way more friendly, and everything in Metroid is very spiky, and the color palettes are picked to be like make you unsettled, and
they're kind of odd choices for colors, like this this weird kind of blue green or whatever is kind of an odd shade.
And then when you get further in and it turns like reds and oranges, and it's just like it like I said, it feels very alien, where most games would do like a blue sky and some green hills and some brown dirt or whatever.
Right. And eventually, once you get the power-ups and you can like drop bombs, and suddenly you're like, wait, this spot where I thought was just solid, now I can like go through it. What's over here? Oh my god.
Yeah. Totally changes the way you interact with the world. I mean, that's the most important thing. That
that mine shaft, or that that shaft that you fell down and had no idea how you were going to get back up. Suddenly you get a freeze ray, and oh my god, now I can do this. Except you start falling and fucking it up.
Yeah, it invented an entirely new way to sort of interact with a game world.
It had this mysterious kind of open feeling to it. Like as a kid, I remember when I played it, it kind of felt like anything could happen in this game.
Yeah.
Even though that totally does not really the case.
Yeah, it does not get borne out, but it feels like it for sure.
Right. And the soundtrack, I don't know, I'd put the soundtrack, like with the soundtracks we talked about being really good, have like these sort of rockin' vibes to them. And this one does not rock, but it's very, like the title screen theme especially.
That's a beautiful piece of work.
And some dude did an analog synth cover of the soundtrack. Yeah, it's really good.
I gotta go find that. The soundtrack.
Yeah,
I agree. That's fantastic.
But I agree with Eric. This game is capital I important, but I don't really enjoy playing it, to be perfectly honest.
Yep, I feel the same way.
It's fair.
Even if they just started you with full health every time you loaded the game, that would be such a step up.
Agreed. I mean, although on the other hand, it's super easy to farm.
Yeah, but like so.
But I agree that it would.
But the auto map, if it had an auto map, that would.
Yeah.
Really, I think this is a good candidate for the Nintendo, the SP versions of games that they're putting on the Switch online service, where they
like cheats built in.
Yeah, like the Zelda
filled in.
Right, like Zelda does. They give you like the white, so all the things you can get outside of dungeons, basically, you start with in the Zelda version. And I think something similar with Metroid, where you kind of still start at the beginning but have a bunch of the gear or something, would really make this game a little easier.
I wanted to say one other thing. Just that, like, one of the frustrations I had while capturing footage was some of these like levels where it's just like these endless vertical shafts and things. Like that's the part that doesn't hold up especially well. Whereas in Super Metroid, it's much tighter and the world's a lot smaller and feels more unique. Anyways, it's pretty good.
Agreed.
It's a great game.
All
right. Well, that means it's back to me. So I'm a little torn here, but. I think to keep my list, since maybe I'll be alone on the island with only my 5 games, I'm gonna want a bit of variety. So I'm not.
So you're not gonna pick Mega Man 3.
I'm not gonna pick. Yes, I'm not gonna pick Mega Man 3 for now.
Not yet.
It's no, it's not Ninja Gaiden 2. I'm gonna go with my number 1 choice from the first time we did this draft, which is River City Ransom.
That was not your number 1 choice the first time we did this draft.
It wasn't.
Bionic Commando was your number 1 choice.
Okay. Well, then it was probably my number 2 choice.
It was your number 2 choice. I have the list in front of me. I have the original list in front of me.
What are we, like 9 years later or something like that?
Yeah, just about 8.5, 8 and change.
So River City Ransom, the one of the several Kunio games that made it over from Japan to the United States, but not without some changes, is a super fun open world kind of brawler beat 'em up game before anyone ever talked about anything being open world. Just this I don't know, it's really cartoony creative game where you can find all sorts of neat ways to inflict damage on your enemies or yourselves, or just hang out at the mall and eat like a bunch of onion rings, or go and have a bath and
eat a whole cup of coffee and the saucer all at once.
And the smiles are free.
The smiles are free.
And you can get like an enemy standing on top of a box, and then you grab a stick and you hit the box really hard, and the enemy goes flying across the screen, like riding on top of the box. Or you can pick up your friend if you're playing in co-op, or you can murder your friend by mistake over and over again if you're playing in co-op, which you probably will do. I don't know.
I always love the way that they like hold the way that they're drawn holding their dukes up. Just incredibly cute, and it just makes me smile.
I remember when I bought this game, it was back when I was, young enough that money was pretty hard to come by, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, this looks neat, but I wasn't sure.
You had to go beat up a bunch of kids and get money from them 35 cents at a time until you could afford it.
I was just worried that I took a chance on it, and I was so happy that I did. Like, it's got such a great possibility space. It lets you do so many goofy things for a game of this vintage. And tons of charm, like beating up the frat boys. Are the frat boys the pink polo shirts?
The pink shirts, I think, are the frat boys.
Just the great dialogue, the amazing art style.
I'm glad Eric looks like he's playing like me here.
I love getting the weapon ability Grand Slam that just makes you a complete murder monster whenever you have a weapon in your hands.
Yes.
Yeah, doing what you're doing right now, jumping on top of the garbage can the bad guy's holding, trying to make
Javelin Man also is like ridiculous, bonkers.
Really weird.
Yeah. Fatal Steps too.
Fatal Steps was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's just such a fun game. It's not a very long game if you know what you're doing. Although on difficult, I find that it's tough enough that you kind of have to spend some time grinding, but that's okay because the whole thing is a big playground.
Yeah, I find the most effective technique is to get to Benny and Clyde and
Nintendo Power agrees with you.
Yeah, grind money out of Benny and Clyde.
Also, best version of the Double Dragon theme song ever? I think so.
The music in general, there's only like 4 or 5 songs in the whole thing, and they're killer. The main Walking Around song is one of the longest songs I can think of out of the NES soundtracks. Like it's like a 2.5 or 3 minute long song with different parts to it.
Guitar solo.
Yeah, and it's rockabilly. It's got serious like rockabilly vibes. Yeah, and then the boss music rules as well.
Yes,
this is one of the original with RPG elements games.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's got
which is a really cool thing when this came out way back then, because that was not in every video game back then.
My only complaint is that my only complaint about this game is that the frame rate tanks so hard when you play 2 players, because it's super fun with 2 players, but it drops down to like 12 frames a second or something.
Yeah, I don't love River City Ransom, but I have a deep appreciation for how weird and cool it is.
Best beat 'em up on the NES for sure, I think.
Yeah.
All right, and with that,
those Ninja Turtle games are pretty good.
Back to Eric.
To Eric for a double 1-2 left hook, right hook.
Oh, I get 2 now, huh?
Give him the stone
Ballad
hand.
of Love and Hate.
Oh man. Well, I feel like it'd be wrong not to pick Mega Man 3 at this point, so let's make one of my picks Mega Man 3.
If you didn't take it, I was going to on my next turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mega Man 2 has a stronger overall roster of bosses, and I think an arguably better soundtrack, and it's a slightly better weapon variety. But I really like the slide in Mega Man 3. Yeah. It is kind of a game changer in some really important ways. It just increases Mega Man's mobility in like a really great way, and it also it opens up the level design a little bit. Yeah, and I was gonna say it also really changes the way that you fight the bosses.
Because the bosses are kind of a slugfest in the early Mega Man games.
Yeah,
like some of their movement patterns can be almost impossible to avoid. And the slide makes it so that you're kind of on a level playing field. And like if they're going to jump at you, then you have good ways to get underneath them. And,
right. You don't just have to out DPS them or tank them or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it just I picked Gemini Man to play because this was the level where it was the easiest to do the invincibility thing that you could do with the second player.
Jump in the pits and jump out. Yeah.
Which was really cool. I really like Gemini Man Stage's style. Like it's kind of similar. There was like a little bit of that in Flash Man, but that like the transparency effect that it has.
You're so bad at NES games.
I was recording these, I was watching the Giant Bomb Extra Life stream where they were playing The Quiet Man. So I was only really half paying attention to this and just like trying to figure out what the fuck was going on with The Quiet Man.
I heard it's bad.
It's definitely a video. It's a fucking thing, man. Anyway, yeah. So Mega Man 3. By this time they'd kind of figured out what worked and what didn't. Also, this also has Proto Man in it, which was a really cool and weird thing. Yeah, like there's this guy that comes and sometimes he helps you and sometimes he fights you, and it seemed like a really mysterious, weird thing. And he kind of looked like Mega Man, and that was kind of it was a cool twist.
He's your brother in as much as robots can have brothers.
Yeah.
I guess Mega Man also has a sister, so
we're
whatever.
All brothers, Joe.
Robot brothers.
This is kind of before they had completely run out of juice for, or I was gonna say, this is before they ran out of juice for boss ideas, but I think this actually is maybe while they ran out of juice for boss ideas.
They were in the process of running out of juice.
Top Man.
And Hard Man.
Yeah, and Hard Man. But you still get a couple cool ones like Magnet Man and Snake Man.
Yeah, Snake Man's pretty dope. Snake Man's stage is very good with the giant snake heads that you have to fight to progress. Like that's one of the better like mini bosses in a Mega Man game, I think.
Yeah, like the level design is really solid in this game, and again, I don't think this game has much of the I don't want to say unfair, but kind of unfair stuff in Mega Man 2. I think that like someone who'd never played one of these games could pick this one up and probably have a pretty good time with it with a few fewer headaches. And I like personally, I love the Doc Robot stages. I like the kind of weird, like creepy, ruined aesthetic and the super hard.
I like those weird cipher bots. I think you guys are both right, but I do like those weird cipher robots that are just like imprints of the Mega Man 2 robots.
Yeah, I like the design of the Doc Robot itself. I just don't like the Doc Robot. I don't, and it's not even that I don't like the stages, because I think the stages are designed well. It's just that the Doc Robot stages and then a full like 4 or 5 level Wily Castle, including the refights, is just like, wow, this is a lot.
But you know what makes that okay is that the passwords actually work through the Doc Robot stages.
But not the Wily Castle, because they never do until like Mega Man 11.
But every other Mega Man game on the NES after this had 2 castles in a row, and the passwords would only ever take you to the beginning of the first one, and that always pissed me off.
Yeah, that's kind of true. This is definitely the second best Mega Man game on the NES.
Yeah, it's also just really cool to see the old Robot Masters come back. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I'm like, oh my god, this is like Heat Man.
Yeah,
whoa,
and they never did that again, which is kind of weird.
All right, that's got to be it. That's 4 minutes and 13 seconds of Mega Man 3 footage. So, because now we're watching Metal Storm.
All right, well, is that what your next game is?
No, it's not Metal Storm.
Is it going to be anybody's game?
No, I don't think so. Man, it's pretty tough to make another pick. How about I go with Ninja Gaiden 2, which I don't think got picked last time.
That's a good game.
Ninja Gaiden 2 is a great fucking game. I really like Ninja Gaiden also, but Ninja Gaiden 2 is just, I think it's better in just about every conceivable way, in the same way that Mega Man 2 is better than Mega Man 1 in every conceivable way.
I mean, you're wrong, but that's fine.
I'm not wrong, because this game you can climb up walls.
You can climb up walls in Ninja Gaiden 1 if you're good.
You can't climb up walls. You can jump and shimmy your way awkwardly up walls, but you cannot climb walls.
Yeah.
The fact that you can climb walls in this game is a game changer. I think that I also really love the silhouettes of Ryu that you can pick up, those orange guys that you can have that follow you around. I think that's a really cool mechanic, especially because it means that
it is sort of Metal Man style breaking the game in some spots, though.
Yeah, kind of, but I mean, it takes a lot more skill than using the Metal Blade, because you have to position them properly to get any kind of usage out of them. So if you can use them to kill everything without taking any damage yourself, but you have to be good at positioning them properly, or else they're totally useless. I think that this game also has better boss fights than the first game, which is the first game has just really terrible boss fights.
I don't know. I'd say they're terrible, but
the first two are pretty bad.
The first boss in this game is basically the same as the first.
But
boss
at least he charges at you. He does something. He does something, and he looks kind of cooler than the guy in the. Anyway, I really love the way Ninja Gaiden feels. I think that the jumping and slashing and climbing stuff is pretty unique.
Controls are spot on.
Yeah, I think it's unique in the pantheon of NES games for the most part. There's nothing else that quite feels like Ninja Gaiden, especially with the climbing and the sticking to walls and things.
And like good air control, but not perfect air control.
Yeah. Also, this game is a total fucker of a game in a way that almost none of the other games that we've talked about so far are. Like
Castlevania 3 and
Castlevania 3. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's easier, but it feels better because you have some air control and stuff.
I think this is easier than Castlevania.
Ninja Gaiden 2 is more forgiving than the first one. They're both very hard, but Ninja Gaiden 2 is more hard.
I feel like the level designs in the first one are better. Like they're just really, really great. And this one, they're still good, but there's some like this one. It makes up for a level design by
way more variety in the areas that you're going through than the first one does.
What if we just blew you into pits like in Super Mario Brothers 2?
You know which way the wind's blowing, man. It's got fucking there's snow. You know which way.
But it can shift. It can. You don't know when it's going to shift necessarily.
Well, that's you got to go. You can't don't fuck around, because if you go fast enough, then it can't shift before it blows you into the pit. I think both games. I think that the major flaw that both games have is that they respawn enemies a little bit too fast. Because you can kill a
like
thing.
What's happening to you right here?
Right, you kill a thing and then you like transition back a little bit and then transition forward and then like it spawns it again, even though you barely scrolled it off the screen.
They just spawn continually.
Yeah. But other than that, I played both of these games a ton at one point. I got to the point where I could beat them without having to continue.
Wow.
I don't know why I did that. I must have burned myself out and then not picked Ninja Gaiden at all in the last draft, and then now going back to them and playing some NES games this weekend, I said I still really liked it. I like the variety of the power-ups in the game too, like the fire shield and the different directions and the windmill blade. There's like a really great variety of power-ups. I feel like the spinny jump blade is not quite as broken in this game as it is in the first one.
It is kind of the holy water in the original Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, but you know, some of those bosses are so hard that you shouldn't feel bad just jumping and slashing.
I do not feel never feel
the
bad.
Bosses. And...
Yeah. But anyway,
I like all 3 Ninja Gaiden games on the NES. The third one, they screwed up the American release by giving you limited continues, but all 3 of them, the gameplay of all 3 of them is very solid.
Yeah, they're good. They are really, really good game. Cutscenes.
Love
them or hate them. The cutscenes in these games are like well paced, and the story is pretty interesting and weird, and they look fucking cool, which is just a thing that didn't happen on the Nintendo Entertainment System. So.
All right, well, I guess that means it's back to me.
Just a girl, get out of here.
Yeah, I was seriously considering taking Mega Man 2 and 3 back to back, but I can't do that, and Bionic Commando's gone. So I think my next choice is going to be Super Mario 2.
That's a very good
game
video
that
game.
I love very, very much. And like I could see arguments why Super Mario 3 is kind of like the good one because it's such an impressive, huge, complicated, big thing. But Super Mario 2 for me is just like concentrated joy. Like every second of playing it is just like super fun, happiness, like amazing art style. Just like bouncing around. I don't know. It's another game that lets you kind of do weird creative stuff and like use characters like the Princess and Luigi to bypass parts of the level, or like just stack up a bunch of items and sort of see how high of a pillar you can make, or see if you can ricochet the same turnip off of like 4 consecutive enemies. I love the mechanics of just the way that you pick up and huck stuff is very satisfying. I think it controls really well. I'm the only person on Earth who plays almost exclusively as Mario because I think that his controls are just really satisfying in this game.
He's the tweener, man. Most people just lean into something, either jumping high or floating or picking stuff up real fast.
Yeah, I can't get down with Toad's jump. It's too short.
Luigi is the best, and
I think Princess is probably technically the best.
I mean, Luigi gets you places that you can't get with anybody else, and that's what I like. Like, it's a pretty short game, but it lends itself really well to experimentation.
Yeah,
and it's just super charming. Like,
there's a lot of cool places to explore and find shortcuts and things. Like digging, the digging mechanic is really cool, and then they hide
trying to find the mushrooms and the warp zones and things, and like. And weird stuff like the time stopper that if you pull up 5 big vegetables in a row, you get the time stopper. It's kind of cool. And, digging through the pyramids and the dirt levels, you do a little bit too much, but it's a pretty neat idea. There's like shortcuts and things.
Riding an ostrich.
Yeah, or like or those slow flapping birds in like the last area.
Right.
Yeah, you can jump on one of those and skip a huge chunk of one of the last stages. Yeah.
Mouser, like one of the coolest Mario bosses ever. I can't believe they have.
I have 2 very important character design related questions for you guys. Mm-hmm. The first one is the Angry Sun or the Evil Mask?
The Evil Mask is scarier.
Angry Sun.
I know. I have a hard time. I actually think that the Evil Mask is scarier because of the way it.
The Angry Sun is a hazard. The Evil Mask is like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, he's like Michael Myers or whatever. And the second question is, do you take the cast of characters from this game, like the enemy designs and shit, or the ones from the traditional Mario ones, Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Bowser?
Man, I love some of the enemies in this game.
Bowser's better than Wart, but
I agree.
I like
I agree with that.
Stuff. The Shy Guys and
Ninjas,
and they're better than
Bowser.
A lot of the
Triclyde.
What's the name of the flame guy?
Triclyde.
Fry Guy.
Fry Guy, yeah.
No, Triclyde is the snake.
Yeah, Triclyde's the snake. Yeah.
And Claw Grip is the giant crab.
Oh yeah, the crab.
Yeah.
He's
okay. I'm glad we're all on the same page with that, because I actually prefer this cast of characters to the OG Mario characters.
And they mostly just appear in Yoshi games now, for the most part.
Yeah, it's one of those games that's, again, like, why isn't there's never been a sequel to this game that's just more of this? It's weird.
I mean, I'm glad that they pulled, not just in the Yoshi games, but also for Mario RPG. They borrowed Shy Guys and stuff for that, which is actually one of the most charming things about Mario RPG, is that it has all those characters in it.
I mean, in a way, the Yoshi games kind of are sequels. You don't stand on things and pick them up, but by eating them and turning them into eggs, you're sort of doing the same basic structure, right? You're picking them up and throwing them at other enemies.
Yeah.
even though you're not doing it in the exact same way.
Yeah. I mean, does this game lose any points because it's technically Doki Doki Panic instead of Mario 2, or does that
No.
not matter? Okay.
That doesn't
Who
matter.
cares?
Does not
It's super
matter.
fun.
Doesn't
It
matter.
is.
If anything, they should just incorporate more of that stuff into the mainline Mario.
Yeah,
World.
absolutely.
I love it. I don't know
Alright.
what else I have to say except that this is the one I go back to more.
Yeah, I really love the first bits of this game, but I think that some of the like back half level designs are kind of shitty and kind of too long, and there's like too much digging, and they're a little bit labyrinthine in a way that's not super fun. But anyway,
Thanks for bringing us down.
it's a really
Now that we're out of time.
great game.
All right,
Next.
expect me. I'm going with The Legend of Zelda.
Yay!
Yay.
I'm glad you picked it, so I don't have to.
Because you can't let it go
I
unpicked.
think I
Can't
picked it.
not
last
have
time.
it be picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of decided to pick it for that reason.
Yeah.
No, I was kind of wondering when that was going to go. Eric, you picked them both last time, as a matter
I
of
think
fact.
I did. Yeah. This is my 6-year-old self's favorite game, and that will never, ever change, ever.
I bet you were adorable.
Oh man, I love this game so much. I had a gold cartridge, man. I probably spent.
So are you saying
It took me like an
are you
entire
saying,
year
ugh,
to beat this game. I didn't have like this, and I didn't have Nintendo Power. I was that fucking map.
you just
I have.
had to explore
I
it?
still have that map, and it still has my scrawlings all over it, where I'm like marking where I'm using the
Oh man.
the candle that you can only use once per screen. So I'm like checking off this bush that I burned with a candle, and then going off screen and coming back, and just
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Talk about, hidden secrets and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. That's the epitome of that kind of thing. Yeah, and just saying, here, go look
explore.
around.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Find something.
There's stuff out there.
Yep.
Have fun.
We've populated this gigantic map with all these weird secrets and all these cool dungeons and all these different types of enemies and upgrades for your sword and your shield. And we're not going to tell you where anything is. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Yep.
So unlike a lot of games from
It's
the
dangerous.
NES, this one wasn't really. I don't think it was ever obsoleted by its sequels, because even stuff like Link to the Past, which does kind of a similar thing, they're much more guided experiences than this.
Yeah.
I'd say that's true. Yeah.
It wasn't until Link Between Worlds, I guess, that they
I
tried
mean,
to.
as
When-
far as
when you
feeling
got-
the same way, but
Yeah, when you got this game, though, if you bought it new, there was some guidance. Like the first 3 or 4 dungeons are marked in order in the map that came with the game.
Yep.
So there is some level of that. It's just sort of external.
it's not
to
within.
playing
Yeah, it's
now.
not within the game.
But you don't even have to. You don't have to go in those orders.
You
Mhm.
don't have to do it that way.
No, but even in Link to the Past, I feel like once you get to the Dark World, you can start kind of going wherever you feel like. Can't you? It's been a while since I've played all the way through Link to the Past.
Yeah, you can to a certain extent. I mean, there's a lot of areas you kind of need the hammer, but once you have that, you can kind of go and do as you please.
I did enjoy the first time playing this. You'd like walk onto a screen and go, all this stuff, and you like walk back off and go, okay, all right,
Yeah.
let me now. All right,
We
now
get
I'm
it
gonna try
together.
it. All
I
right,
want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And
You're gonna burn every bush with the red candle.
Yeah.
Walk
Right.
off and walk back on. Walk off and.
exactly.
There are a couple of things about this game that make it a little rough to go back to. Just no
Yeah.
diagonal walking is so hard.
Yep.
The game is not. The game is designed around that though. Like
It
it's not
doesn't feel
like.
good.
yeah, you guys are both right, and the game is designed around that, and it works totally fine. But also, it doesn't. It just feels bad.
Yeah.
I like the
Feels
single
bad, man.
use candle on the screen. It's just like,
Right.
it's like it's already bad enough that you have to try to burn.
Give
every
you a
bush
better
in the-
candle
Right.
though.
Yeah, they give you a better candle.
Eventually.
But you don't know that when you're 6 years old, so you have to
That's
mark on your
true.
map every time you test a bush.
You have to draw a little picture.
And like the first time you find out that you can do that, then you have to go and check the whole fucking goddamn fucking map like all over again.
Wait,
Because there might be an ogre that gives you, or
did your
pardon me, there
little
might be a
mobber fuck
moblin
up
that
your
gives
map?
you 50
Moblin,
rubies or rupees or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a secret to everyone.
Yeah.
There is one plus about this game is, like, I think I'm right.
The soundtrack is really
There
good.
isn't a. You have found a rupee. This is worth 1 rupee.
Oh yeah, right.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Oh man, they
Every
ruined
fucking
Zelda.
time. Yeah.
No, they fixed it again with Breath of the Wild.
It's true.
They did. Yeah.
They still
Don't worry
kind
about
of have some of that
They've-
stuff in there a little bit, but
But at least
not-
every time
it's
you
not
find a blue
nearly as
rupee, it
irritating.
doesn't, right? I'm
Yeah.
not wrong about
No.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
Doesn't go, you found a blue rupee, it's worth 20 rupees every single
yeah.
time.
So
Yeah.
is that an old man or is it a lady with a hat looking up? That's an important
What?
question. The person that gives you the sword, is it an old man with
It's
a
an old
beard,
man.
or is it a lady
old man.
looking up
No.
and with a like a big?
Now I gotta
hat
go back
on?
and look at it.
No one has
No,
ever
it's an
thought
old
that.
man.
I've
That's an
always
old
thought
man.
that it was a lady with a hat. It wasn't until just a few years ago that I
6-year-old
realized it
you
was
is
supposed
a
to be an
little
old man with a
confused.
beard.
Well,
It's definitely an old man with a beard.
All right. Moving on. Joe gets 2 picks.
Oh boy.
Also, the opening song from Zelda is the best song on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I will brook no argument about that. The title screen
So-
song.
I mean, you make a good argument.
I
in that you made no argument.
challenge me.
this is tough because
I will
when we
gut
did
you.
this Super NES draft, my tastes run counter to a lot of what everybody else sort of is into, and that's not the case as much with the NES. There's sort of this canon of like, really great NES games. So now it's getting
Yeah, we'd
tough
have to go a lot deeper
choose.
into the.
Yeah.
the
Although the first time we did this, we had
library.
some weird left field picks that I'm not going to mention now in case they come up later. But I guess I'm going to have to go with a game that has had more entries in the series, but has never been outdone in its own series
I think I know what this is.
since then, and it is Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
It's good that you picked
So-
the right one.
Well, come on.
There's no other Punch Out.
Mr. Dream. Come on.
Well, that's like the version I have. The actual cartridge that I own is the Mr. Dream version. But yeah, I mean,
racist caricature of the game.
that's sort of how that's sort of
Maybe
how
not wrong.
you delineate from it being the arcade version of Punch
Yeah, this
Out
game really takes it to the French.
or the Wii
Yeah.
version of the Punch Out. I mean, it kind of does, right? Like the French guy is the weakest, lamest, like
Where's King Hippo from?
the Hippo Island in the South Pacific.
Oh, South Pacific. Sorry.
So yeah, this game is just it's I'm really glad I have an HDMI mod in my NES because it means that I can actually play this game on a high definition television without it like lagging out so
Impossible.
badly that I can't possibly beat anybody. But this game is
Get
one of those
good, son.
games. Yeah, well, that's easier said than done when you're dealing with lag in a game that is very, very reliant on timing. Especially once you get into once you're in the world circuit, if you don't have, you play it on an emulator or something that is capable of not having too much lag. Because if you have more than a couple frames of lag, you're boned. But yeah, this game is just. There's nothing else like it except other games in the series, and none of them have been able to do what this one did. The Super Nintendo one went back to sort of the arcade style, and then the Wii one went back to this style, but it still just wasn't. It didn't feel as good. It didn't feel as right, and it's almost because I think they did it in 3D, and so there's too much animation, which sounds weird, but like. There's too much animation in the Wii version, and so the timing doesn't feel crisp. Yeah, exactly. But and also this thing with Nick and Rick Bruiser or whatever their names are, the Bruiser twins, like they're lame. They're not interesting. It's like the baddest dudes are these two plain looking bald guys. They're the
I guess I really like the way
What do you
that
got against plain looking ball guys?
I think so. Here's my argument for Super Punch Out is that I think it's a much better boxing game and that you actually get to fight characters, whereas in the back half of this game you are literally just dodging and punching pretty much all the time. There is no.
That is boxing, Eric. Punching, dodging, and
no,
punching.
in this game
boxing.
you are always dodging and then punching. You never get to actually mount any sort of offense. Especially in the back half of this game, pretty much Glass Joe and Von
Super
Kaiser.
Punch Out is
No, in Super Punch Out, you can almost always like punch and win. The biggest exception being the final two.
Should have
the
called
Bruiser
it Punch
brothers,
and Win.
but-
That's a good name.
punch and win.
Anyway,
It's a
I
lottery
really
game.
like Super Punch Out because I like the way
Yeah.
that it. Controls.
This is
And
better though.
I like Super Punch Out.
Yeah, Super
don't get
Punch
me
Out's a
wrong.
great game.
I
like-
enjoy Super Punch Out more, but this game is super good.
Yeah.
And again, in terms of like the Mega Man 2-3 comparison, this is definitely the iconic one.
Yeah.
There's there's more stuff in Super Punch Out, but none of the characters are nearly as memorable.
Right, and this one also had a depth of
the sprites. They're so big.
Secrets. Yeah, they used a special
sprites.
mapper chip to make the giant boxer sprites, and apparently they put Mario in it without asking like the Nintendo EAD, like Miyamoto's team or anything. Like the team that did this, they just put him in there without permission from the higher ups because they wanted to. But yeah, this was a game made for the US audience as well, which is interesting. There was eventually a Japanese release, but it was primarily made to appeal to folks in the West.
Great game.
They really talk about Punch Out.
Great game.
For 4 minutes
Love it.
already.
Also, not a lot of music in this game. Soundtrack is great, and they're still finding out new things about this. The thing where you can knock out certain boxers when a guy the bearded guy in the crowd does a certain thing, like that was just discovered like a year and a half ago or whatever. Like that's ridiculous. That we're still finding things out about this game.
All right. Well, by the time we do our next draft, I want you to be able to finish this game blindfolded.
No, I'm not. That guy is super impressive. I am not that guy.
Does he just use audio cues? Is he listening to it, or is he?
Yeah, he's listening. He's using audio cues.
We'll go do it some other time. All right. What's your next game?
Next pick.
Ooh, buddy.
I'm not familiar with that game.
Man. So. There's already a Ninja Gaiden game on this list. And part of me wants to pick the one that I think is better, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
I think you might have picked Ninja Gaiden last time.
I did pick Ninja Gaiden last time. This is I should have one more after this.
Regular pick. There's the lightning round after this.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought we each got 5 picks. This is my 4th pick.
We said 4 and then a lightning round.
We did. It's a fact.
Did we? So I thought we said 20. I thought we said, I'll check the tape. I thought we said 20 and then a lightning round to get to 25.
Oh, wait, you're right. That's 5.
4 rounds would be 16.
All right, fine.
And then a lightning round to get to 20.
I was just going with what was specifically said.
Just choose another
4 rounds. So fine, this is your second to last pick.
Okay. I was also going to say, okay. Okay. So
for the lightning round.
Right. Okay. I'm going to,
I got one highlighted. I think it'd be a good pick.
Yeah, it probably would be. I think, I'm going to go with, I didn't get Contra again, so I'm going to do the same thing I did last time and take Life Force.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Salamander.
AKA Salamander. And I do have both versions, actually. I have the Japanese version of the translucent blue cartridge, which is really dope looking.
I got one of those.
You can get an extra option in that one. You can get 3 options instead of just 2, because of the additional mapper chips, and there's some additional background animations in some of the stages, I think. Man, you suck at Life Force too.
Look, man, I'm watching the fucking Quiet Man. I don't know what the fuck you want from me, all right?
To be fair, he played Punch Out pretty well.
Yeah, he did play Punch Out pretty well. You can't half pay attention to Punch Out.
I might be able to beat the first circuit of Punch Out blindfolded.
Yeah, the first circuit I might be able to do blindfolded. But this game is, the best US released shooter on the NES.
It's true.
I would say Crisis Force is maybe a little better, but that was a Japan only release. So, I'll stick with Life Force. It adds some stuff that the arcade version didn't have, and the weird Egypt theme level, and that kind of thing. The power-up system is just really great. It's different. The power-up system is actually different than the arcade as well. Although there's like 3 arcade versions of this game, so that's not true for all of them. But in the original arcade release, you just picked up power-ups like you do in a lot of more quote normal shooters, rather than having the Gradius meter at the bottom, which is why for a long time my friends and I always just thought this was Gradius 2, because then Gradius 3 came out on the Super Nintendo, so we're like, oh, Life Force is Gradius 2, except it's not. There's a different Gradius. There is a Gradius 2. But I always felt like Life Force was sort of that.
I'm right there with you, buddy.
This is a game that I always sort of associate with Contra, because it's a 2-player Konami game, great soundtrack. The blue thing is player 1, the red thing is player 2, just like Contra. You've got this complex, cool power-up system with different weapons and options and stuff. And it feels, Konami's output at that time was just really, really fantastic. And as a co-op game, it's really fun. It has the 30 life code, which makes it a lot easier to sort of, like Contra, you can kind of use the 30 life code to learn the game, and then when you get good at it, you can sort of abandon that.
It also has a lot of like weird body horror stuff, which is something that has in common with Contra. Obviously, this game does it right off the bat, whereas in Contra, you don't see it so much until the final level. But
it's not until towards the end when everything gets Cronenbergian. Contra.
This feels like it could be taking place on the planet that you just briefly visit in Contra.
Right. Yeah. And there's another game called Abadox, The Deadly Inner War, which actually really takes like the Cronenbergian body horror shooter to like the nth degree on the NES, but it's not as good of a shooter as this game is.
All right, but
yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
I don't know. I'm about as good at this game as Eric is, so I don't have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I fucking suck at shooter at the.
I mean, if you're playing two players and you use the 30 life code, you can sort of credit feed your way through
I
it.
I should try that sometime.
Yeah, we should play it together, and we'll do the code and we'll credit feed through it. And again, that's how I got good at the game. That's how I sort of initially experienced it, was doing that, and then eventually I got good enough that I, like Contra, I can beat it without using the code. But
this has the ring gun, which is why it's better than Gradius.
Yeah, the ripple laser. Yeah. Which is better than the double shot for sure. I would agree.
And it looks cooler and it's more effective.
Yeah.
I just can't truck with these games where you lose all your power ups when you die, and then you're just in the middle of
learning.
That's actually
I totally get that.
Prefer that's why I kind of like the way the Konami code works in Gradius instead of this, because you can just use that and get a bunch of cool shit.
You can get all your monster comes back. Oh, also, last thing then, this game has my favorite video game box art of all time.
It's really fucking good.
It's super cool. Yeah, it's a snake wrapped around a planet, and there's fire and shit. It's super fucking dope.
Yeah.
You ever fight that snake?
Yeah, at the very end. Mm-hmm. He doesn't look nearly as impressive in the game.
No.
He's the final boss, basically.
At least it's not a false bill of goods.
Sure.
All right.
That was two. It was Punch Out and Life Force.
Oh, it's Kurt time.
It's me. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with a game that I haven't actually played a ton and hadn't played before the previous NES draft, but played it a bunch with these folks and some other folks and had a blast with it. And it's gonna be Super Spike V-Ball.
What the fuck are you doing, Kurt?
I thought you were gonna say
that's supposed to be my game.
Super off-road racing.
The game rules. And I will say at this point, another rule that we didn't mention before we started is we removed combo carts from consideration, which is why Kurt didn't pick Super Spike V-Ball and Nintendo World Cup, which would have been the smart pick if that was allowed. But it's not allowed.
This is the best sports game on the NES.
Agreed. Yeah. Like I said, I hadn't played it before, and then we played it when folks were visiting us here in the wonderful Washington, D.C. area, and I just had a blast playing it with everybody. And I figured it should be on the list.
I really like the way that it's like, I mean, it's volleyball, so it's a super simple game.
Right.
It really tests your timing.
You can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like playing volleyball. You have a lot of options as far as blocking and spiking.
There's a lot to it for how simple the NES controller is and how, you're just these two dudes. And
I actually found it really hard to pick it up because I'd never played this one before when we had that meetup.
Yeah, the timing, I mean, that's part of the reason why it's so good, is because it can be a little bit difficult to pick up at first, because you have to get good at hitting angles and getting the timing down on, especially with super spikes and stuff, where you can jump up and then hammer on the A button, and then when you hit the ball, it'll do a super spike that can like bop off of guys and go into the audience and get you some free points.
Yeah, it's like sort of like Super Dodgeball.
Right. It really rewards getting good at it, right? So when you get that
Scrub.
timing down, it feels great.
I really like that. Like, it's pretty simple, and then it just has 4 different teams to pick from, but it's like a well-rounded team. The Arnold Schwarzenegger guys, which I like to play as, which are really good at spiking. There's the 2 guys from Double Dragon who are super fast and good at just digging and getting.
Oh, just like in Double Dragon, where you're so fast.
They've been working out since then, man. They dropped some other weight and then they got real fast. And then there's another team that's really good at blocking, which is that's actually the easiest way to beat the this is like the normal cup that I'm playing, and then there's a World Cup, which is much more difficult, and the blocking team is a little bit easier to win with there because the super spikes just aren't as effective. But I played a ton of this game, and I think that it's a really fun single player game because you just
Kaboom!
get into a good rhythm, and it's also it's one of the best 4-player games on the NES because there's 4 people in beach volleyball, and everybody gets to play as a guy, and you get to yell at each other for fucking up the hits or getting out of time, and you're supposed to be at the net, you're supposed to be behind, who's supposed to be, it's got all that good shit.
God damn it.
Does the NES version have ladies that you can unlock somehow, or is that only in the arcade version?
That's only the arcade version.
So much like my friend had Super C instead of Contra, the game that I had instead of this was Kings of the Beach Volleyball.
I'm so sorry.
That's not as good
to have a lot of fun with that somehow. Anyway, I don't know if that's really weird or if it's it's definitely not. It's definitely not flashy and exciting the way this game is.
Right. It's that game is totally fine. I think it also have more people on the court at the same time.
More people. No. It was 2-on-2.
Is it 2-on-2?
But I felt like that game also had a lot of depth to the controls, but I don't know because it's really hard to go back to because it's ugly and slow and weird.
Yeah, it is ugly and slow and weird, which is this game is not. Like this game actually looks pretty good even now. It also has this is like the most underrated soundtrack in all the NES library. It has fucking great music, especially when you get to New York and Chicago.
It's possible that there's a lot of really good music on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I feel like Technos is just generally an underrated developer on the NES. And sort of like a lot of their games were published by people who aren't them. So I feel like even the games that do get a lot of praise, like most notably Double Dragon 2, those were published by Trade West and Acclaim respectively. So people aren't like, oh, Technos. But like River City Ransom, that was Technos. This is Technos. Super Dodgeball was Technos. All their sports games on the NES are super good. Super Dodgeball, Kunio basketball, Nintendo World Cup, which is Kunio soccer.
I fucked up bad not picking this last time, and now this time
Kurt I was like, nobody picked that.
Yeah,
the wrong has sort of been righted now, though.
No, it's good. It's on the list. It should be. This is, like I said, I think this is the best sports game on the NES.
All right, Mike.
Yeah. All right. We're kind of getting into the weird zone at this point. I think all my ringers.
A lot of the NES library is the weird zone. To be fair,
it is. A lot of my ringers, like the games that I can really stand behind, are gone. So I think I'm gonna pick one that has issues, but that I just like a lot, and that game would be Star Tropics.
Oh. Okay.
But you can't walk on angles, Mike. It's a top-down action RPG. You can't walk on angles.
It's designed around that, so it actually kind of works. You know what you can't walk on an angle in that game, but you know what you can do is drift.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's basically
you can jump too.
Game.
It's Zelda Tokyo Drift.
Exactly. No, I don't know. So that game is definitely weird. It's an odd duck. It has extremely specific control scheme, I guess. Like I've never played another game that plays like this one does, and you have this weird thing where you're locked in a grid, but you kind of have this momentum, and so you can keep walking into the next tile while changing your facing and attack, or you can try to jump while you're doing that, but it just jumps straight up and down, which is not very useful most of the time. It's pretty hard. I wouldn't put it up there with the hardest NES games that I've finished, but it's not too far below stuff like Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania 3 in terms of difficulty level. But it's extremely unique in its setting and tone. Like the things you don't get in a lot of other games is this kind of South Pacific setting and really goofy tone, but then also cuts kind of like retro 50s sci-fi horror towards the end, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I suppose probably very offensive to anyone who is actually from the South Pacific. But I don't know. I really enjoy playing the game. I like that it has this super mean trap early in the game where you are finding secret items and you walk into this room and immediately die. And I love that because it doesn't actually do that very much, but it makes you spend the rest of the game thinking that it's going to dump you in the water for kind of no fault of your own, which kind of heightens the tension. I don't know. I like the submarine and traipsing around and driving through the tunnels, and I love the fact that your main weapon is a yo-yo, which can eventually, but it takes a super long time before you get to upgrade it, but eventually it turns into some sort of weird flail thing, and you're a kid who loves to play baseball. Also, I think of all the video game characters in the world, I resemble Mike from Star Tropics more than any other because my hair does that now.
You know, Mike, I just realized something.
What's that?
You pick a lot of games with butts in them.
Did you see that pig butt?
Is there a bus in this
Did
game?
you see that pig anus spread? I was going to
That
bring it up
pig
right
has
at
a
the end.
butthole.
That pig
right?
has a goddamn butthole.
In the Super Nintendo draft, you picked Out of This World, which has alien lady butts.
And also,
not
one of
the
Mike's
same-
favorite video games is Doom, which has Cacodemon buttholes.
And also, he picked River City Ransom,
Those are
which
the
you can
butts.
go in the sauna, and there's butts.
Yeah, that pig butt, man. I was not expecting that. That kind of blew my mind the other day when I was playing this, capturing this footage.
If it got butts, I'm into it. So does anyone else like this game, or am I the only one?
Yeah, I like this game. I like this game more than Zelda 2, to be perfectly
I like
honest.
it, but for this style, I think I'd rather play Crystallis, which is not exactly the same, but it's
a
kind
more
of similar.
normal playing game.
Crystallis lets you ride a dolphin, and this game, despite being taking place in the tropics, does not let you ride a dolphin.
a
So, but you can't ride it.
Well, no, it's a baby.
Yeah, well, so it should grow up, and like it should be like the dog in Metal Gear Solid 5. You save it as like a pup, and then it grows up and like helps you out.
This game gives you a submarine with Rob the Robot for your navigator.
Yeah, and you have to dip that letter in water. So I got that game as a rental, and the rental store that I went through as a kid photocopied manuals so that if someone lost it, they could just photocopy another one. And I didn't get why nothing was appearing on the page that I was dipping in the water.
They didn't
Obviously, it didn't photocopy the invisible ink that appeared when you did. So that was when I stalled out. I didn't get past that because I couldn't find the code.
They didn't give me the letter, so I dunked the manual thinking that it was in there. I felt bad about it.
They photocopied the letter and gave it to me, but I was like, what's the point? Because it doesn't.
Time.
Thankfully, I had Nintendo Power.
I did not have that issue at that time. So
You had
All
the
right.
issue that you didn't have the issue.
that's right.
Eric.
All right, Eric gets 2.
Oh, I get 2, eh?
And that's it. No more for you.
That's no more for me
Until the lightning round.
until the lightning round. All right, we can go off the board from what we picked last. I don't think Bubble Bobble got picked last time. I think Bubble Bobble is one of the great co-op games of all time. I think it's got a lot of charm, a lot of spunk. I think it is super simple because it's kind of an early NES game in terms of its look. But I think that the look is appropriate for what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and as an arcade game, I think it came out a few years before it hit the NES, I want to say.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it definitely it's missing some of the things that like earmarked like the sort of generational leap forward that the NES represented over the earlier arcade games and Atari and stuff like that. Like it's all single screen things and you're kind of just running around jumping up and down and killing guys for points. But I just think it's a really fun co-op game where you kind of we can work together and run around and jump up and bubble dudes. And I think it's a really satisfying thing when you pop the bubbles and the guys fly around and turn into fruit.
Candy and fruit.
Mostly fruits and vegetables, I think. I think that it's really cool that it has like a weird secret ending.
I think the one track of music in this game makes me insane.
It does. Yeah, especially it's fine for 2 minutes, but then like by the time you get to level 20 or so, you just want to
There are 100 levels in this game.
Yeah, you want to cut your ears off and
stages, and I want to Van Gogh my shit when I'm yeah. I don't know. I like this game. I would not have drafted it, but I do enjoy Bubble Bobble. I think it's a very solid game. Also, the ending is kind of bull. If you play through the whole game by yourself and endure that music for 100 levels, and then the ending just is a big middle finger, like I don't love that.
I think it has a lot of really cool mechanics. I think like the way that you can like blow bubbles and bounce on them, and also use the various like you have to blow bubbles and find where the air currents are, and then use those to navigate some of the more complicated levels. I really like these water bubbles that come up and like push you around. I like the fact that when you kill all of their brethren, the last enemy turns pink and starts flying at you really fast. I like that there's a non-shown time limit where evil white whales will come and murder your fucking
Baron
ass real
von
fast.
Bubba.
Yeah.
And when we still did written articles for Halloween every year, one of our contributors wrote an article about Bubble Bobble for Halloween, and specifically about Baron von Bubba.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
And how like
Another
horrifying
thing that Spelunky borrowed.
Were. Yeah. Well, that kind of came from Berserk initially, right? Evil Otto
you're true.
was
right.
sort of the first in a long line of unkillable sort of time limit baddies that would just show up if you dawdled too much. But yeah, this game is one of like many sort of single screen puzzle, like Snow Bros kind of followed in this mold, but is not as good as Bubble Bobble, but it's sort of the same general feel of like an action puzzle platformer single screen thing. And there's a Bubble Bobble 2, and it's a late era Taito game on the NES, which means everybody is sure that it was only a rental, which I'm not certain that's actually true. And it fetches like a gigantic sum of money.
That game's okay. I don't like that game as much as this one.
Yeah. Bubble Bobble is a weird lineage as a series. Like there's multiple sequels to it that are like not necessarily related. Like there's Rainbow Islands, and then there's Bubble Bobble 2, which are both kind of Bubble Bobble 2, but not really. And then
your cool little
Parasol
dragons
Stars
show up in
Bust a Move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Puzzle
bobbling
Bobble,
things. Puzzle Bobble is a great series.
Yeah. First, Bust a Move or Snood?
Bust a Move, or yeah, Bust a Move. Puzzle Bobble. Snood is a freeware ripoff of Puzzle Bobble.
Just checking.
But yeah,
is that it? No more thoughts.
I don't. I mean, it's just
Bobble.
It's such a simple thing that gets really difficult because of the way the levels are designed later on.
This must be when the quick look about the Quiet Man ended, because you're playing this game well. So.
I've also played a lot of this, so some of that might be muscle memory. So I get to pick again?
Yep.
You do.
Choice.
Oh boy.
Fifth and final game. Well.
Oh boy. What's still left here? That's pretty good. That's a good game. There's a lot of good games left on the NES. Although I think the top tier stuff is all gone. Oh fuck it. You know what? I'll go with another single screen puzzly action game that I loved as a kid, and I think that I did not pick this last time because we were going on the conceit that it was a desert island game, and I had already solved all the puzzles in this when I was a kid, and I could probably make my way through it pretty quickly. I think actually in the lightning round, maybe I picked Lolo 3.
I was gonna say, this could be another game where the music drives you crazy.
You did pick Lolo 3.
Did I? Yeah. Okay, I thought I did because I had not played. I still haven't played through all of Lolo 3, so that would make sense in a desert island scenario where you need, like a long puzzle game to figure shit out. But this is the Lolo game that I played and loved, and I think that the puzzles in this game are just fucking devious. It starts out as this really easy, really laid back thing, and then by the time you get to like the third floor, almost every room you have to almost sleep on it to figure out how to get fucking from one side of the room to the other. There's so many hazards, and they're so devious in the way that they place them. And also,
I will say I didn't play this game till I was an adult, and it wasn't that hard.
No,
but I did
the later stages. Did you play through the whole thing, Mike, or did you?
I finished it.
You did finish it.
I will say the first time that I had to take a half step to solve a puzzle was like a galaxy brain moment.
Yeah, I think that it actually, so like 2 and then 3 sort of pick up where this leaves off, so it just gets harder and harder and harder the further into the series you go.
Right. Once you get to the things that, like, if you step in front of them, they instantly murder you. I feel like that's where you start getting into.
Well, it's like even I think that this game does a really good job of onboarding you, especially throughout the entirety of the first level, where you can just kind of you can pretty safely learn how all the things work, and you can kind of solve puzzles in various different ways. And then by the time you get like into the middle of the game, a lot of the times there's only like one really viable solution. You just have to. Sometimes it's just trial and error, and sometimes it's like. You have to figure out how to float an egg over some water and then get on and off the egg fast. And there is some elements of timing and not really platform or even twitch, but you do have to be precise in your movements in order to finish the game. I don't know. It's a really simple concept that I think that they do a really great job with. There's a ton of Lolo games, not just on the NES, but
MSX, I think,
right,
series of computers, right?
Eggerland, I
Yeah.
believe they are called on the MSX, and also
this is,
Eggerland 3, I think, has one of the most horrifying pieces of box art I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm not gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I should have had that beforehand. Maybe I'll try and find it while you guys are talking next, and I'll put it up on the stream. It's really, really good. It is a real life Lolo, and it will fuck you
man.
up. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. That's the Adventures of Lolo. There's a lot of great. There's like these stone guys that will block you into position. There's a little leaper grasshopper guy that will follow you around and then fall asleep if he touches you. So you have to like manipulate him into the right areas. There's guys that will shoot fireballs at you when you walk in front of them. There's guys that will shoot things that will go through pieces of cover. There's just a million different ways that they will fuck with your expectations of how the various rules of the world work. And then once you figure all that stuff out, then they will start to really give you a really hard time.
Yeah. This game has a suicide button, right? Like that's what you just did. So if you screwed up, you can just restart.
You can murder Lolo as many times as you want.
So long before I ever played this game, I was sent a mixed tape in the mail of NES music by One Brick Road, and I don't know who was with me at the time that I discovered this, but it had a version of this song on it that was looped for 33 consecutive minutes. And I was listening to that mixtape while we were playing games on Xbox Live on the Xbox 360, and some subgroup of people that I was playing with just heard me have this realization that the song had been playing for like 9 consecutive minutes. And I decided I was going to ride it out until it stopped. And 33 minutes later. And it will be ingrained in my memory forever. I like the game anyway.
It's Brutal Truth's Prey all over again, which is just like 4 notes and the guy screaming "Pray," and then they loop it for 45 minutes at the end of
this should make
Sounds from the Animal Kingdom. And then also every time they play it, they degrade it just a little bit, and so by the end of the thing, it's just like this horrific cacophony of
it's like the opposite of You Suffer.
Like an art project.
It's so good. It's so fucking great. Anyway.
All right. Okay. I guess it's my turn.
Yep.
It is your turn.
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna go with DuckTales.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
DuckTales.
Joe's clearly a Konami fan, but I am a Capcom man. I think almost all of my favorite games from this era are made by Capcom. And DuckTales comes from a time when you could say the words licensed game without immediately assuming that it was going to be a big old piece of
fact,
trash.
if it was made by Capcom, you would assume that it would be a pretty fucking good game because Capcom made a whole shitload of really good licensed games.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to point out that I just did an entire series of videos about Capcom. Like,
yeah, I'm just saying, man.
Categorizing me as
I think Konami's got your heart.
Maybe on the NES, but I don't know about overall. Anyways, whatever. DuckTales rules. It's the best Capcom Disney game on the NES. It's the best Capcom Disney game, period.
And there are some other good Capcom Disney games, so it's not like you're just saying that because there's no competition for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically has one really cool mechanic that, you pogo stick on stuff, and it's super fun. It's relatively short and relatively easy, but just like completely filled with charm. I believe it was made by, if not the Mega Man team, then a lot of people from the Mega Man team. I don't know if
that seems likely.
Yeah.
I can't confirm that, but it seems extremely likely based on how it plays.
Mm-hmm. And it's got catchy music and fun, kooky monsters, and a really cool mechanic that inspired several other games over the course of history.
My God. Thanks, Eric.
And I don't know that I have like a billion things to say about it aside from that. I remember when I when I bought an NES like maybe 10 years ago to kind of relive the nostalgia since I'd sold my NES to buy my Super Nintendo. I picked up a couple cart games that I figured would never see re-releases, and so this is one of the first games that I got on cartridge. Because I was like, yeah, right. Like, we'll never see this on Virtual Console. And it turns out I was completely wrong.
Well, you're completely right that we'd never see it on Virtual Console.
Yeah, we never saw it on Virtual Console, but in fact, it did get a re-release alongside basically every one of these games, the Disney NES games.
All the Disney afternoon ones. There's a couple of the Little Mermaid, Magic Kingdom. I think there's maybe one more that didn't.
Rescue Ranger. Oh, you saying that didn't?
No, the Rescue Rangers and
Yeah,
Rescue Rangers 2 did. Yeah.
Yeah, and this game got a sequel, which I basically never played. So I don't know.
It's all right.
The common wisdom is that it's not as good as the original.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't have much else to say about this game.
I love pogoing.
Moon music.
I love pogoing, but it's kind of the only thing I really love about this game.
Yeah, but
I think the level design is kind of a mess. I think it'd be really difficult to design levels around that pogo jump, so I kind of understand why it's that way, but it's not very tight. It's very messy, and there's like stuff all over the place, and I don't know. Like I said, the degree of difficulty to make levels that would feel good with that mechanic is very, very high. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it works. I don't. It wasn't on my short list to draft, but it's a pretty good hop and bop type of platformer. I'm with it.
All right. Well, move on then.
All right. So my last pick. I think I need to go with Super Mario Bros.
Oh yeah, I like that game. That's a good video game.
Yeah.
Man, that's a weird game.
It is a weird game.
It is a weird game.
It's a good one though.
Yep. There's a lot of good, as I had noted before, I'm a platformer fan, and there's a lot of good platforming in that game.
What's nice is that it's not actually a game that was made obsolete by the later games, because it feels and plays differently than the later Mario games. It has kind of I think so. I don't know. I went back to Mario, the original one, because it was the first video game I ever showed my son, and he got super into it. And at one point, he wanted me to play it a bunch. I'm actually much better at this game than I ever was as a kid. And I would say more often than not, I will at least finish the game, on a single credit. I won't guarantee no deaths or anything, but
that's pretty good.
And yeah, like it's got a different feeling, different sense of momentum. The jumps are a little different.
Jumps are very weird in this game.
Yeah, so I don't know. I had fun going back to it.
It does have its very own sort of sense of physics.
Yeah, it was my great disappointment in Mario Maker was that the Mario 1 skin was not controlled like original Mario.
Right.
Well, none of the skins changed the physics, right?
No. Yeah, I did think that was.
But if
that would have been a lot of work. I feel
like
so good.
Mario 3 and World and New Super Mario Brothers all kind of refine them or just like retune them, whereas the difference between Super Mario Brothers and then Super Mario Brothers 3 and then further into the series is just a total, like it feels totally different to me.
But also good. Like it on its own merits, it's a simpler game, but it's still really well put together.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even so, I mean, it is simpler. There's less concepts in play, but there's a lot here too.
There is. And I think it's still fun for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no,
it's
there's
a little purer.
Yeah.
More pure.
Sure.
It's easier to say than purer.
Also, I feel like it's weird that people this question doesn't go around as much now because people are less up their ass about it. But like for a while, there was this thing about like, when are games gonna have their Citizen Kane? What's the Citizen Kane of video games, man? And I was like, it's Super Mario Brothers. What are you talking about? We had the Citizen Kane of video games, and it happened in 1985. It's fucking Super Mario.
Because you watch movies and you play video games, and this is the one that changed how you played video games.
Yeah.
Right. In the exact same way that right.
Probably the most Kane was a sea change on our list.
Probably the most influential game in the history of video games.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say. As Eric was, saying. Metroid capital I important. Obviously, this one is very much so.
Yeah, I think that that this holds up better than that does, though.
Yeah,
I'd say that's true.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, this game is capital I important and capital G good.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Both of those things are true. Yeah.
Capital G.
I would rather play either of the other two Super Mario Brothers games on the NES.
Yeah, I might rather play this than Super Mario 2 sometimes. Depends.
I definitely would rather play the 3 than this, but
yeah.
I don't know about that.
I don't know what it is about me, but I just I loved 3 when I was younger, but I don't want to go back to it very often these days.
Like it too.
Yeah, I don't know. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah, it's broken.
They just made a better game, called it World.
I don't see. To me, those two games aren't really that similar.
They're not.
Because
they're not that
World
similar.
is so much more about exploration, and 3 is so much more about platform challenges.
The bite-sized levels and the platform challenges and the suits, and
that's why I feel like to me they are equally good, but they occupy slightly different spaces.
Side, Eric.
So one of the most interesting things about this game that I just have to insert here in case people haven't seen it is a YouTuber named Summoning Salt did and I'm saying this because Eric is on World 4.2 now, did this whole long video about how 4.2 is like the speed running sort of, it's like the pivot point on which speedruns of this game turn.
Didn't somebody
so there's this like
set a new world record in this also in speedruns?
Yeah, because they figured out how to quickly move through World 4.2.
Oh, really?
Like it's literally it's the axis point on which all of the speedruns and world records turn.
Do or die.
Yeah, it really is. And so there's it's a video by a user called Summoning Salt, and I think it's just called Super Mario Brothers World 4.2, where there's like a little bit fancier of a title than that. But like if you search Summoning Salt 4.2, you'll find the video, and you should watch it if you're into video game history and speedrunning and like playing stuff at a high level, because it is bonkers, like to what level they go to figure out World 4.2 and Super Mario Brothers just to shave like a tenth of a second off of a speedrun. It's ridiculous.
Nice. Okay. Joe.
That makes it my last pick.
Final pick.
So this is one of those things where it's like, if it was a desert island thing that we were still sort of sticking with that conceit, I would maybe say Ninja Gaiden 1. Because I do really like Ninja Gaiden 1. I like it more than Ninja Gaiden 2.
Follow your heart, Joe.
Yeah,
well, if I'm going to follow my heart, no, there really isn't. And also, I think I might throw a wrench into this whole deal because I think I'm actually about to pick a game that you don't have any footage of. So I'm going to apologize for that. But I am actually
for like a minute before you do that.
Sure. Let me type it in the chat, then I'll stall for a minute while I talk it up, and then you can like grab a YouTube clip or something. But it's an action game. It's similar but not congruent to Ninja Gaiden. And there's a lot of games like this, like games in this category that I thought about as I was sort of leading up to this were like,
is it Jackie
Power
Chan's
Blade,
Action Kung Fu?
Not that one. That's a good one. I do like that game, but it's not great. It's not top 20.
Adventure,
No, you shut your. What about that game is like Ninja Gaiden? The bumper car mini game is really like
World, Kid Cool.
That was a Mickey Mouse. No, so I like stuff like Power Blade and Shatterhand and Vice Project Doom all kind of fit in this mold of these like sort of second tier but still really good 2D action games that maybe aren't to the level of a Contra or a Ninja Gaiden 2.
Mappy Land.
Yeah, Mappy Land. But the one that I have to go, can I say it now? Are you good, Eric?
Yeah,
did you find something?
Good. You're not watching the stream, must be.
So I'm gonna go with Batman.
Barker Bill's Trick Shooting.
No, Batman for the NES, which is another one of those as Mike was saying, licensed games, and people sort of blanch at them and kind of always have, but there's always been ones that have sort of stood above that. And Batman it really doesn't resemble the movie very much for the most part. Like the beginning and then the end are kind of sort of like the movie Batman. But it's just a really, really solid action game. I would put it just a little bit above stuff like, like I said, Shatterhand and Power Blade, and I like all those games. But this Batman 89, just a little bit better to me. That the platforming and the wall jumping feels really good, and sort of learning the wall jumps helps you get through some of the tricky platforming spots later in the game. You get 3 sub weapons that you kind of, it's sort of like Ninja Gaiden's power-ups or Castlevania's power-ups, but you always have access to all 3 of your sub weapons. And the deal is that each of them uses a different number of the ammo. So there's the Batarang, which just uses 1 ammo, and then I think the Dirk is the sort of the powerful 3-way shot. That one uses like 5, and I think the missile uses 3,
The
if I'm
Dirk
remembering
Diggler.
correctly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so
Rest in
you
peace,
know,
Burt
it's
more than
Reynolds.
3.
yeah, it's just a really good example of a licensed action game. And it's
Like
up there.
7 or 8.
It's up there as one of the best Batman games, like right along with Arkham Asylum. I think like there's not a ton of great Batman games. There's some good ones, but this one is really still one of the best Batman games out there. And again, soundtrack, man, Sunsoft did some really dope soundtracks in the NES era, and they had a special add-on chip that they used as well that sort of helped them get some additional sound horsepower out of some of their games. And so yeah, I don't know, I don't have a ton to say about it, except it's just a really, really solid action platformer. I made a video about it forever ago, like 6 or 7 years ago now, but Batman rules.
I agree, that is a very good game. Next.
So now, does that take us to the lightning round?
I believe so. That's 20, right?
Yep.
So last time we did this, we wanted to get a nice round 25, and so we all unanimously decided that Super Mario Brothers should be on there because nobody picked it. But now somebody did pick it.
We'll figure it out when we get there.
So okay, so we're gonna do that. We're just gonna pick our 4, and then we'll unanimously decide on something we missed and be like, oh, it should be this thing.
Yep.
Okay. Does that mean it's on me?
Yeah, you're up, I think, right?
Lightning round.
Back to you, lightning it.
Mhm.
I feel like you're really getting into the spirit of the whole lightning.
I know.
He's been struck by lightning.
It's hard. Yeah, I
He's
read
trying
it.
to
Been
recover.
struck by lightning. Super C.
That's also not in here.
That's a-
You motherfucker.
It's a lightning round.
We don't have time.
It's
to
a lightning
put it
round.
up.
You just-
Let's
you
pick
just-
one of your games that you recorded and stick it up, and we'll talk about it.
You
Super
just
C is a
put
good
up a
contra
clip
game.
of-
I like
Find
that
some
one.
NES. Find a Nintendo Action Set box and just put that on the stream.
All right, so my turn. I think I'm gonna go
Actually,
with Zelda
no.
2 because I
No.
like the fighting
No.
and I like bouncing off
No.
of people.
It's not your turn. Actually, it's Kurt's turn.
Oh, all right.
I'm not
Kurt, what are you
gonna
pick?
Zelda 2 just to fuck you over.
You can
I'm gonna
if you
pick
want, it's fine.
I'm gonna pick Tengen Tetris because I played the shit out of that game.
Yeah,
when I had it.
I think you picked
And
that last time as well.
I did.
You
I
did,
did, and
yeah.
I decided to repick it.
It is definitely the best Tetris game on the NES.
Yeah.
That was actually going to be my suggestion for the 25 to round.
Yeah,
it out.
I got it, and then it wasn't available anymore. But it's really, really good, and
It has 2-player
the-
mode.
Yeah,
it does have 2-player mode. That is what I was about to say. It has a dope 2-player mode. So, but it's Tetris.
And
It's
in
got a couple of
single player,
2-player
it
modes,
tracks how
actually.
many of each block you've got for no reason, just to have something on the second screen, which I really
Yeah.
like.
That's true. Yeah.
So you
Yes.
can get mad that you haven't gotten enough line pieces.
It's
Mhm.
such a good It's a very good early Tetris. It's not
Yeah,
Game Boy
yeah.
quality. Man, I
It's no
wish
Tetris Battle
if
Guy
Tetris
Dan.
Effect was on PC, I would buy a VR headset to play it. But
I am seriously considering getting a VR headset to play that.
You're-
'cause
There's some
PS,
Black
yeah.
Friday
it's real
bundles
good just by
for-
itself, and I can't imagine how
Yeah.
mind blowing.
supposedly that robot platformer is really good. Anyway,
Right now, who's not embracing the lightningness of
you know,
this? All
somehow
right,
we
Mike.
managed to fucking run through this in like less than 2 hours, so I feel like I'm not too worried.
pretty
about
good.
it.
Yeah. All right, Mike.
I already said mine, but I'm gonna pick Zelda 2 because
Yep.
as busted as that game can be, I really like the way the movement feels. I like the combat. I like the bouncing off of dudes. Or no, I don't like the combat. There are times when it's just terrible, but I love breaking the combat by bouncing off of dudes.
But you have to earn the ability to bounce off of dudes first, and getting there
Yes,
is
and I love that part of
annoying.
the game. Just that like harrowing run through Death Mountain, where you're just like hoping and praying that you'll survive long enough to
Gotta
make
get
it
that
to the
hammer.
other end and get the ultimate reward.
the hammer or the down thrusts.
Well, the hammer gets you the down thrust
Yeah.
pretty. I can't remember the
Right.
exact order, but I know that you have to go to Death Mountain and it's hard.
Hammer gets to the down thrust.
That's a game that I've tried to revisit. Like I keep trying to be like, there must be something I'm missing, and every time I revisit it, I'm just like, nope, it's just not clicking. Just isn't
fair.
just not getting there with me.
There
I
is
every
like the
time.
Physics.
I wish there was a Zelda 2 too, because there are some really great things about Zelda 2 that I love
Yeah.
and adore, but it just isn't This isn't the best version of this game, but
it's really easy to get lost in the dungeons because they don't do a lot to signpost where you are, and there's not like a map. So you're just like, this hallway looks really familiar. I think I've been down here, but I'm not sure. So.
Even just a bigger variety in the backgrounds in the palaces would help alleviate that. I mean, there's a ton of problems. Although Down Thrust, man, 20 years later they put it in Hollow Knight and made one of the best platformers of all time. So there's something to the Down Thrust. And the way it works in this game just feels...
It takes a little more skill in Hollow Knight than in Zelda 2, though. In Zelda 2, you just hold it and bounce.
Zelda 2's got like actual physics to it when you use the down thrust. In Hollow Knight, you get a very...
You just slash down and bounce.
You just have the same bounce every time in Hollow Knight, where you have kind of...
Yeah. You can slide off in Zelda 2. I love Zelda 2.
It's not a perfect game. Moving on.
All right, well, that's it. Unless... No, it's not. Eric has...
I didn't go yet. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'll laugh if Eric picks a game he hasn't captured.
No, I'm not gonna pick a game I haven't captured. I have. Oh man, toughy. Let's go with. I'll go with something else we didn't pick last time, since that's kind of fun, and take Tecmo Super Bowl. Which is the second best sports game on the NES. I played.
I think Baseball Stars would like to have a word with you.
Yeah, that game's all right. Whatever.
I like Baseball Stars, but Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl they're better.
Yeah, Tecmo Bowl is a great sports game, and that's probably the one that most people played with the broken.
It has like Invincible Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
So.
Which is fair because in 1986, Bo Jackson seemed invincible.
He seemed invincible.
Yeah. And then he fucking ripped his leg off, and it turned out he wasn't. But anyway, so Tecmo Super Bowl plays just like Tecmo Bowl, except that it has all the teams and it has all of the players from all the teams, and it tracks stats over the course of seasons. So you can play a season of football, and you can throw 1 million touchdowns to Brian Blades because you're a Seahawks fan. And that's the best player on the team, and you just constantly take Dave Craig and you run him from the the line of scrimmage back into the end zone, and then you throw an 80-yard touchdown pass from one end zone to the other, and it's
or you can take the Green Bay Packers, and it's like playing on the hardest possible difficulty. That was during the dark times.
Hey, at least I made it.
Mikowski era.
At least you and I were both in the same boat, though. That at least our teams were in this game.
Yeah, right. Because they're not the first one.
Yeah.
I love that there's dedicated people out there who update the rosters. ROM hack this game every year to update the roster.
Yeah, it's really good. There's more plays in this game. There's a greater variety of plays. It's just
only 2 plays on, or two run plays, 2 pass plays on.
Each team kind of has its own playbook. It's just it's really cool. I love the cutscenes and stuff that they put in for the
high
extra
five,
points,
like the 3-frame high five.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool things about
I played a lot of television football though.
And I really
it's totally the same thing.
I cannot stress how mind blowing the stat tracking was to me when I was a kid. That was like just the ability to, like I said, that it would keep track of all of your stats over a full season was just really
I think Baseball Stars was actually the first sports game to do that on the NES, I believe. That you could play a season and keep your...
Anyway.
All right.
Okay, so that's our 24. So I'm gonna nominate 2 games, and you guys tell me I'll take the temperature of what for our 25th to round it out. I would say either Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior should be our number 25.
I think last time Mike picked Final Fantasy to...
I believe he did, yes. Somebody did. Somebody picked Final Fantasy.
I mean, I have captured footage of Final Fantasy, but not Dragon Warrior.
Well, let's not have that. That doesn't need to be the...
In some ways, I think if we're going to pick one to be symbolic, I would actually go with Dragon Warrior, because that's the one... We put up footage of Final Fantasy. But Dragon Warrior is the one that basically defined the console RPG. But in some ways...
That game is fucking almost unplayable because of the way the menus work in it. It's so...
You don't like have to choose the stairs to go down the stairs?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't like it.
Really
I hate
annoying.
They're better if I want to play a game with a menu action system on the NES, I would play Shadowgate or Deja Vu or Maniac Mansion.
What about the one game that brings everyone together? Ivan the Iron Man Stewart Super Off-Road Racing.
I love that game, but the Super Nintendo game is so much better.
No, it's not 4 players on the Super Nintendo.
That's true.
That's true. But the fact that there's only like 4 courses, or is it 6 or 8 courses out of the 32 many that there should be, is pretty...
Eric, why are you naming... This is not Final Fantasy V. This is Final Fantasy 1.
It's fun for half an hour.
So yeah, Final Fantasy is an important game. There are no RPGs on the NES that I could play now. I don't like them. I appreciate them. I hammered away I got Dragon Warrior as part of the Nintendo Power bundle
I think I
when
did
I was
too.
a kid, and I gave it a shot, and I played quite a bit of this too. But it's just these games need the quality of life improvements that you see in the Super Nintendo versions.
Well, let me do this. Let me say this. Here's some games that we picked last time.
Okay, I like this.
That we did not pick this time.
All right, you have to go alphabetical
Pro wrestling.
With
I'm just going
fights?
down. Are you going to try to do this in alphabetical order? Really? I was just going to go down the list.
All right, that's fine.
Oh, okay. Pro wrestling, we did not pick this time.
That was one I picked.
Crystallis, we did not pick this time.
Pro wrestling is a tough ask in 2018.
Yeah,
I picked it purely for nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
Crystallis.
Pick it again.
Blades of Steel, we did not pick this time.
Yeah,
but maybe ice hockey's better.
Super
Ice
Dodgeball.
Hockey's so much better than Blades of Steel.
I agree.
I'm pretty sure
I
gave Kurt a ton of shit about that when we did it.
You did.
I also captured footage of Ice Hockey because it's the third best NES sports game.
Sports game.
And you can just pick a whole team.
How are you not putting Punch Out into? Because
Punch Out's not a sports game.
Punch Out.
Punch Out's not a sports game. Yeah, it's a rhythm game. It's an action game. It's whatever, but it's definitely not a sports game. I would even buy Punch Out as a puzzle game before I would.
What about Super Dodgeball? Super Dodgeball is better.
Super Dodgeball is a very cool idea for a game that is a technical mess. So I have disqualified it for that.
Okay, well that's another one we didn't pick.
It plays super slow, and there's all kinds of like sprite flicker and stuff.
There's a lot of sprite flicker.
That's a tough ask, but that's a really cool thing.
We didn't pick Adventures of Lolo 3.
That right. Well, I picked Lolo instead because of the change in
the. We did not pick Little Nemo, the Dream Master.
I didn't capture any footage of that, but that's a really cool game.
We didn't pick.
What the fuck?
Hey.
Who? What?
Wait a minute.
How about we
fuck you guys? Blades of Steel is way better. You guys are crazy.
Hey guys.
All right, that's it. That's all I got to say.
Alex.
You want to? You're welcome.
What should
I put down I was eating and I was listening to this and I was like, "Fuck this! Dinner's got to wait." And I found my mic and I got on here just to tell you guys that you suck ass. All right, that's it. I'm done.
Underscore said, "I can't believe I was more considerate than Alex."
Oh god.
All right, well I think maybe we're done here then.
All right, so what is going to be our 25th game to round? With Little Nemo, Final Fantasy, Balloon Fight, and Strider, we did not pick this time that were picked in the last draft.
What about one of the 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games for the NES? We didn't pick those last time.
There were technically 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games.
No, I don't remember. There's number 2, and then there's number 3, the Manhattan Project. But I don't think there was a
number
first.
1.
I don't think there was. I don't.
It's weird they never made a 1, but that's just how games work.
I don't know.
There was a pile of garbage.
Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, is a damn fine game. I would have no problem inserting that as our honorary 25th.
Double Dragon 2 is also a really good NES game that we didn't pick last.
Double Dragon 2 is also a very good NES beat 'em up. Mike, Kurt, what do you guys think?
I would also say Ninja Gaiden would be
better.
a fine pick, but any of those are good.
What was your last one, Eric?
Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, we can do Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, nobody took that? Yeah, you should take that.
I did Ninja Gaiden 2 because I like it better, but.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. All right, that'd be fine.
So Ninja Gaiden, are we saying is our 25?
That's a great game.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I don't feel bad for not picking it.
You fight Jackie Onassis at the end.
All right. So that's true. So let's just to run this whole thing down, just to revisit and talk about what was picked. Contra, Mega Man 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, Bionic Commando, Metroid, River City Ransom, Mega Man 3, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you got the subtitle into the show at some point.
Super Mario Brothers 2, Mario Madness. Is that a subtitle or just a slogan that's on the box? I don't know.
That's definitely not the subtitle.
Okay. The Legend of Zelda.
Should be though.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
We'll save Mario Madness will be the sequel to Mario Odyssey.
There you go. Life Force, Super Spike V-Ball.
Oh man,
Star Tropics.
Is such a good fucking game.
Bubble Bobble, The Adventures of Lolo, DuckTales, woo, Super Mario Bros, Batman,
okay,
Super C,
good.
Tengen Tetris, Zelda 2, Tecmo Super Bowl, and honorary number 25, Ninja Gaiden.
I
So
went
the
totally off the
question-
reservation with my last 2 picks, but I wanted to pick stuff that we didn't talk about last time because it's more fun.
So now the question
That's a good
becomes,
list.
if
Uh-huh.
you could choose one of your friends' lists, which of your friends' lists
I
would
mean,
you
I would
choose?
pick Eric's list in a heartbeat.
Eric's
Even-
got Contra,
even-
Mega Man
He's
3,
got Contra and Mega Man 2.
Yeah.
No, Mike has
I-
Mega
Sorry,
Man
no,
2.
Mega Man 3.
Yeah.
and
Uh,
Lolo and Tecmo Bowl. What was your other one?
Ninja Gaiden 2.
Ninja Gaiden 2.
Lolo, Bubble Bobble. Yeah, like I said, I kind of went off the reservation a little bit at the end, but those are both
yeah.
those are both fun games, and especially if Kurt hasn't played Adventures of Lolo, and he likes puzzle games, like
I do.
you should play Adventure of Lolo.
I do, and I
It's
have
really
it.
cool.
So, yeah.
Really?
Sorry, Mike, did you ask what I had?
Or not
Yeah, what'd
adventure
you
game,
have?
puzzle game. Sorry.
I had Castlevania 3, Bionic Commando, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Life Force, and Batman, and Super C.
Oh, you got Bionic Commando? I ain't touching your list
Yeah.
with a fucking 10-foot pole.
I was gonna say I'd like your list, but then I'd have to get rid of Castlevania 3.
It's tough just because Joe has Castlevania 3. I have to consider it, but I can't pick it. I probably have to go with Mike's. I think. Mega Man
Yeah, I'm
2
kind of
is
leaning
real
towards.
strong-
I mean, Eric
strong.
has my favorite game
Yeah.
is Contra, but you also like, I don't know, man, Bubble Bobble and
Bubble Bobble's a great co-op game.
Adventures of Lolo.
I was supposed to get Super Spike V-Ball, but somebody else took it. It was
Yeah,
supposed
well,
to
you
be,
didn't,
It was supposed to be
so-
Super Spike V-Ball and Adventures of Lolo, but
Kurt
So
had Super
I-
Mario 3.
Yeah.
Kurt had
Kurt's
Super
got
Mario
Mario
3 and Super
Did
Mario
nobody-
Brothers.
I got it.
Did
in both
nobody
drafts.
take Zelda? Did I miss that?
I took
You
Kurt
missed
took
that.
Zelda.
Kurt
Actually,
took
I'm going with
Zelda.
Kurt's.
Okay, okay.
Kurt's got Zelda.
Yeah,
He's
Kurt's got Mario 3.
Mario 1 and 3.
Mario 3, Zelda, done. Kurt wins.
Yeah, that's a good list.
Yeah.
Super Spike V-Ball and
Oh, who took Blades of Steel?
Nobody.
Nobody.
'Cause it's not as
I
good as
took it.
ours.
Oh, that's right. Fuck you guys.
Nobody wanted to take the second best hockey game on the NES.
You son of a bitch. Say that to my face.
Joe got the best Batman game.
Oh my god.
Good.
This is really
Good.
the
We're
perfect
doing
way
good
to end
things here.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I think I would take. I think I would have to take.
You should look at the stream, Joe, and then go with your heart. Wait 20 seconds and then look at the stream and then go with your heart.
Okay, I was gonna say it takes Tecmo Super Bowl.
It takes good food. Holy shit, I've never played this. This looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Mike
one
has
person
Mega
has
Man
Contra.
2. Eric has Contra.
And a
I think
Mega
I would.
Man game.
I guess I'd have to go with Eric because he has Contra and Mega Man 3. Even though I don't really give a shit about Bubble Bobble or Adventures of Lolo, but the rest of his list is pretty.
Yeah.
Solid. Ninja Gaiden 2,
That's good.
The Dark Sword
Mega
of
Man
Chaos.
3,
Dark
yeah,
Sword
Dark
of
Sword
Chaos.
Chaos, Contra.
It's weird to me that the one that has Contra in it isn't the one that you're like, yeah, that's the one.
Like I said, it's because I took some weird
I mean,
picks
it's
at
because he
the
took
end.
some weird stuff
he
that I
put some
don't really
Yeah,
love.
yeah.
in there.
So.
Pretend that I had Super Spike V-Ball and Kurt's not a huge piece of shit.
Why don't I pretend that I have Contra and you're not a huge piece?
'Cause that's obviously not true.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's
Learned
that's.
anything in the last 10 years?
I mean, it seems like we learned a couple things. We learned that Blades of Steel and Pro Wrestling aren't very good NES games. It seems like.
That's false.
Those are very good NES.
They finally stopped standing the
They're
test
good.
of
They're
time.
just not quite as good as other
And
stuff.
that Crystallis is maybe not as great
I
as
think
somebody
I think
previously thought it was.
Yeah.
I'll
I
note
think
that Eric
game's
got
good.
3 picks before I took the one he's bitching about you about.
Yeah, that's a valid
Well,
point.
nobody was supposed to pick that game. I should not have shown you fuckers that.
You didn't show me that. I was well aware of Super Spike V-Ball.
Yeah, but you didn't
before
know about Super. You knew about it, but you didn't know about it. You know.
Sure, keep telling yourself that, man.
All right, that's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. So there we go. So now we've got our Super NES draft up. This is the redo of our NES draft, and I think the Genesis one is going to be the next one that is turned into a video, and that's all thanks to the people who donated to our 2017 Extra Life campaign.
PlayStation 2 one is up.
And then we did the
So,
PlayStation
yeah.
2 draft, and that is up on the YouTube channel as well. So check those out if you want more of this. And God only knows why you would. And yeah, the Genesis draft, which has a bunch of people who are not most of the people that were on this one, is going to be the next one.
That one has people whose opinions we actually care about. So
right,
like me.
It's Joe. It's Joe picking, me moderating, and everybody else is not any of the usual chuckleheads.
Yeah, no, not at all.
We're gonna say mental patients.
No.
Okay.
The inmates are running the asylum.
Accurate is correct.
Yeah, so that's it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you watch this live or just or watching it on the YouTube channel afterwards, and yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night with a regular weekly stream
with Blades of Steel.
No, I think you mean Blades of Steel.
Yep.
Is that the one where you can play Gradius in between?
Yeah,
absolutely, it is.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the fights are more than just people bumping into each other. But I don't think Blades of Steel can have full bench clearers, which ice hockey can. So
you can't have a full team of fat guys in Blades of Steel.
That's true.
Ice hockey's
very
better.
True.
Anyway, that's it. We're done. Goodbye. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Whatever. Bye.